Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet David? Valuetainment, giving values contagious. This world of entrepreneurs, we get no value to haters. How they run, homie, look what I become. I'm the one.
Oh, great.
That's a bad idea. If you want me to tell that story, I'll tell it on air.
So we are officially live.
Oh, we are?
People have been waiting for this moment for a while. They're wondering what announcement's going to be made. They're wondering what is going on. The beginning of our interaction, me talking about you. Let me just set the tone here before we get into it. We got a special guest in the house. You're here because you want to find out what this guy, his name is Steven Crowder. You know who he is. #1 conservative late night comedy show. 6 million subs, billions of views online. He's loved and hated, which is why he does so well. Not afraid of facing anybody. Arguably one of the most talented guys out there. Some would say the most talented voice on the conservative side. I will say a couple things. You know, when I said Steven's going to be on, and I don't want you to get uncomfortable about this. One guy said, "Be careful if you're talking to him; he may record the conversation." So I just want you to know this is being recorded.
I had no idea we'd already started live.
Yeah, we're live.
You're so professional. I come in, you're all in suits. It's like, I don't know, let's just go live.
Yeah, he's live.
Oh, he was doing cocaine. And I was like, what?
You missed
what?
it.
Not me.
A minute ago.
Trying to shake that
Sunday
rumor.
school teacher was doing cocaine a minute ago here. But and then the other
funny.
part. Here's the other part. I've been in business for a long time. And I was asking this from Rob. I said, Rob, I got to ask this on the live because I talked about it on the video. And maybe because there's levels to success. You got to make it to certain levels in success. I said, Rob, what do I need to do to be able to predict a future family emergency, right? To say a week ago and say, hey, we have a family emergency that came up on Tuesday, which, by the way, to be fair to you, Matt Walsh was supposed to be on Wednesday, and he also just had a family emergency when we announced you're going to be out. So I don't know what's going on
I have
here.
no family emergency.
Yeah. So, but here's the part. Here's the part to know. So everybody.
You don't
knows.
have a family emergency, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
So Stephen and you and I got on a call with Greg, a.k.a.
How dare you?
Gerald. And with Paul, a.k.a.
Rob Gargiulo.
We get screwing up
We have
the
different
names.
names.
It's
That's okay.
it's basic bitch white guy names. They're impossible.
Mine's like an old school name. It's not even basic anymore.
You were professional
Gerald.
enough to reach out.
Yeah.
We got on a
Professional.
call. And when I got on the call, I had no idea what direction the call was going to go. Ended up being an incredible call with you. Obviously, I've seen you. You know, whether anybody says anything about you, you're one of the best in the world. In the conservative side, some would say you are the best in the world.
Well, thank you.
And the back and forth with Daily Wire, for people that follow Daily Wire's content, everyone knows what Ben has done over the years.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what Candace has done. Everyone knows what those guys have done. Even Matt Walsh with What is a Woman documentary, which I thought it was, you know, he crushed at what he's got going on. And, you know, so everyone kind of got in and said, wait a minute, what is going on with these two guys? And then, boom, you were supposed to be on. We had a great convo, and here we are with you. Have some announcements to make today.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Yeah, what happened was that was a whole thing. Cause I don't really do a lot of press. A lot of people don't sort of realize that. Like, it's very, very rare.
Yeah.
If I want to say something, I'll say it on my show, and I'm kind of reclusive, actually. I'm actually surprisingly shy, and so I just end up talking more when I'm around people. Thanks. Is that he turns away? Yeah, with the way this started off, like people are going to be like, "What? That's unprofessional."
Yeah.
He opened a can.
How dare he?
What is this? Now that's it with you and these cans. Yeah, so
You don't do a lot of press.
I know I don't do a lot. I don't do a lot of press, just because I don't really like it so much. Like, I'm a pretty private guy. If you look at my social media, I'm never taking pictures of my food. You know, I never take pictures of my family or my children. I keep that close to the vest because I think it's a choice they have to make. And I come at this from, I came in as an actor and a stand-up comic and an entertainer first, and then just after getting beat in the face by a leftist industry, being banned as a comedian from clubs and from colleges, just kind of started letting my freak flag fly back in 2009, when there were no conservatives on YouTube. That didn't exist. Mm-hmm. So yeah, as far as the announcements, we're pretty excited. Well,
yeah,
I'm allowed to.
You're allowed to say certain things.
So yes. So Mug Club is officially, which is my camera here? Is that all right? If I had a can to open, I'd make it a little. Wait, is
Right
that
there.
one or that
The
one?
one on the left.
The one on the left.
one that has
the
you
one
on
on the right. March 20th. March 20th is when it's coming back. Daily show. LouderWithCrowder.com/MogClub. What we're doing is it's $10 less than it was before, and we're about doubling the content. So we'll be doing a show on Friday. We have some. I don't know which people we can announce, but we have
we've got a few people. We're still, as you know, working out all the details.
Yes.
So there's some stuff we still have to kind of finalize, but a lot of really exciting things.
Yeah. And the reason for that, too, is, we have tentative agreements with some people and then some concrete agreements with other people, is signing equitable contracts that are transparent, that hopefully set a new standard, in this industry. I mean, this is something that I've been doing for a long time. I know what a contract looks like. I know what a term sheet looks like. In my opinion, we talked about this on the phone call.
Yeah.
Sure, you can make more short term if you kind of just scrape every dollar you can. But long term, that doesn't really work. The best business deal is one where everyone benefits, everyone is happy. Because why, especially with talent, like how often have you heard of people, whether it's Dave Chappelle or whether, South Park in the episode with the Muhammad issues, you can't keep people who don't want to be there. So you have to frame it in a way where they're happy, where they benefit, and you benefit, and people you want to work with. So March 20th, we're coming back. We're coming like a bat out of hell.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's always, you always get nervous. See, you don't seem that way. He knows, I always get nervous before every single show. I had horrible stage fright before I got up and would do stand-up. I used to think it was less embarrassing when I would tell the stories and be like, before my Just for Laughs audition, I went backstage and I threw up. But the truth is I wouldn't throw up. I would have explosive poops.
Yes.
But I felt it was more masculine to be like, I threw up.
Yeah.
I got wasted, I threw up. I don't want to be like, I have a sensitive tummy. So I need running to the bathroom.
I need some Tums.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not a good look.
Probably this guy after all that cocaine, right?
Yeah.
Vinny.
Well,
Doesn't that
Vinny,
get it moving?
It's hard for you to shed that. But you still get nervous when you do shows? Is that what you're
Always.
saying? Still, even a show
Always.
like this,
Yeah.
you're nervous right now? And then when did the nerves go away?
Never.
So you're nervous right now.
Nervous right now.
Don't do what you typically do before a show right now, please.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is I've always told this to Gerald and to everyone else who also works there. Is every single time you do a show, I say, assume that is a 100% new audience. And you sort of learn this when you're coming up through stand-up because you'll be doing like 6 shows, Thursday 2, Friday 2, Saturday 2. And you can do really, really well 3 and then you bomb because you get a little overconfident.
Yeah.
That is a new group of people who are not familiar with, you haven't built any momentum with them.
Right.
So I always want to make sure that people are getting their money's worth. There's so much content out there. And sometimes we work in an industry where, it's about investors or it's about advertising. Those are all fine too. But I think True North should always be the audience and what it is that they want and how you most benefit them. And long term, if you do that, I think you'll end up doing well. But, I'm not really a business guy. I'm not like you. I was when we were doing research here, I always prepare. This guy is he's like the Monopoly guy.
What do you mean by that?
I don't just mean his house now. This guy is like crazy wealthy. Good for
He's
you.
done all right for
Yeah,
himself.
he has
I'll
done
say
all
that.
right.
You want to say a few words for yourself? Or
Listen, but it's crazy that you're saying the nervous thing because Tyson also talked about that. And some of the best athletes talked about that.
Yeah.
Were prior to it, and it is a quality of a great one. It's not like some people are a little bit more calmer when they go in. You see, remember like Fedor used to fight Pride. You go and they're like, this guy looks like
He's about to take a nap.
he would bring it all the way down, and
Yeah.
Kobe would go very ice-like, and that was his style. But there are some that's the other way around. Either way, you ended up, having
remember George St. Pierre when we had him
Same
here
way.
I don't
Throwing
know,
up.
6 months
Yeah.
ago? He would get so nervous.
I was
before a
always
fight.
afraid of my opponent.
Yeah.
Yes. But
How dare you talk
Steve,
about him like
I'm
this.
a stand-up too, and I've done 2 specials. I've been on Kevin Hart's special. I think if you don't have that,
But some guys don't.
They don't have like zero. I think they're lying.
He's
bro.
right.
The
There's
people are-
some don't have it. No,
They don't
he
care.
is-
Some
no,
people
it's not
don't.
They don't care.
There
Who
are
are
some
those
people
guys
don't.
that don't get nervous for a big audience?
I don't know. I've been
that's
around
crazy.
him. I mean, a good example is like Chuck Liddell when he would fight. John Halcon was like he said he just doesn't get nervous.
Yeah.
He just doesn't get nervous. But I've always been that way. So
Pat, do you get nervous ever? Like you speak on massive stages. You don't get nervous on podcasts. I already know that. But even when you go on stage, when you're speaking in front of big audiences,
I don't know. I don't know if I do at this phase. I don't know if I do at this phase.
So that settles it. I guess he's not a great one.
Yeah. Well, no,
It's Mr. Mediocre, 100 millionaire over here.
but I would tell you there are certain times you may, depending on what the climate is. But I want to go back to your announcement. So Mug Club is coming back.
Yeah.
That's exciting. When we shared a video today, the tweet, all that stuff, everybody was like, when is it coming back?
March 20th.
Yeah, so people are dying for that. The
Yeah.
fact that that's coming back, that's big news. The question I want to ask from you is...
Can I specify one thing
Sure,
too with Mug
absolutely.
Club? Because we had, so many people who signed up at mugclubforever.com. And I know that some people had signed up, and so then we had this contract up, and so we left. So we want to make sure they're not shortchanged. So if you have signed up at mugclubforever.com, check your spam folder. Tomorrow you're going to get a code to pre-order and get a bunch of free time and free months to honor kind of what you left.
Gerald, do we have a link to put down there in chat, in description, so people can go to it? Is there a link to it or no?
mugclubforever.com.
Okay, let's put that in the chat and description and comment, Rob. All three so they can get it. And maybe every 30 minutes, just drop it in there so they can get it as well.
Yeah, like Ron Popeil.
So let's go back to this. Here's kind of what I want to do with the audience and some of the questions that maybe I have with the whole thing with Daily Wire and yourself and prior to going into some of we'll talk about issues, we'll talk about current events, we'll talk about some of that stuff. But Daily Wire. So the question that kept coming up, Stephen, was, whether it's Candace came out and said, I wanted to find out what he had to say, or Ben Shapiro came out, this is how negotiation works. If you don't like it, you go back and forth. Let's go. How many times did you guys go back and forth until it was like, okay, you did a video, you didn't mention the company's name, everybody's trying to kind of guess who it is, but most people kind of knew it was Daily Wire that you were talking about. And then they came out, Jeremy went through the contract, one by one. And then you responded. Then there's the recording. Then there's this. And then it was like, hey, Candace comes out, Jordan Peterson tweet, delete, all this stuff that's going on, right? But the question
It's like the world's biggest high school. I get it.
But the question for me is, how many conversations did you guys have up until the point where it's like, we're not doing this?
Yeah. So, I mean, and not to rehash like all that stuff, because look, I think people now kind of know, like, you make your decision, and I love Jordan Peterson, like Andrew, like I'm still friends with a lot of people over there. The issue there was never, look, the issue I always had was, and I said, take me off the table because it wasn't going to be a fit. The issue was with other people. The primary issue, you never heard me talk about money. And I know as a business guy, there's probably like nails on a chalkboard. But it's, you can't penalize people. You can't put in 110% penalties on behalf of big tech. Literally 110% penalties. But primarily, if you have other kids who are coming up, like, you can't punish conservative content creators on behalf of big tech, saying not only do you have to be there, you have to be monetized, which on YouTube, right? That's a very different set of guidelines. It's basically don't say anything offensive ever. All I can say is there was never anything that we went over that involved that being eliminated. Like, if that was a sticking point, like, okay, get rid of that. No, that doesn't happen. And so we decided, okay, we're going to go on our way and do it. Now we're focusing on what it is that we can do, what it is that we can change, and bringing in other people.
So from the beginning of the conversation series until decision was made, is that like 5 weeks, 2 months, 3 months? Is there like a...
Months.
Okay, good. So it's not like it was because some people are thinking, hey, we're out of here, we're done, first offer, I can't believe you're doing this, I'm blasting you publicly. No. Okay, so that's good to know. That's between you and them. You guys can, that's a conversation between you and the people you were working with.
Sure.
Here's the other question I got for you.
Yeah, the issue is when you don't see eye to eye and like, look, take it off, take me away.
Yeah.
The issue is the punishment on behalf of big tech. Or the issue is like, I've been demonetized for this long.
Yep.
That can be redlined and changed. Wasn't. So that's the issue. It's like that was the issue as far as, okay, this isn't going to happen because of the big tech penalties. And I understand it too, by the way. Look, when you're in a war, and I mean that, we are in an ideological war. We really are. And we are at a potential tipping point in this country. You need different kinds of people. You need different battalions. And I get it that some people want to work within the platforms in order to change the platforms. Well, no one understands that more than me because I've been there since, before there was monetization, actually. My brother was one of the first YouTube partners, I think in 2007, 2008, whenever they started it. But the issue is when the platform no longer allows you to speak truth. I'm not looking to be removed from YouTube. I've talked about that. And the people who we've signed, we want nothing to do with whether they are on YouTube or not. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, that's blood money. And I don't mean it's blood money, but I mean, I don't want to have to influence someone to play ball with YouTube or Facebook or tell them not to if that's what they choose to do. The issue is when you have a platform like YouTube, like Facebook, that says, you know what, you can't say, for example, that there's myocarditis with young people, right? Or there could be potential adverse effects of the mRNA injection with young people. When they say you can't say that, we're going to suspend you, you are now no longer able to speak truth. So we'll use those platforms as long as they're available, provided that we're allowed to speak the truth. But when we get to the point, and we've had these conversations where we're like, well, you want to quote the CDC on the flu deaths today? He's like, well, you want to be suspended for another 2 weeks? Or, hey, do you want to have Kerry Lake, who's currently running for governor? It's like, well, we're going to be suspended and miss the election stream that night. Sure. And we just decided to let the cards fall where they may. It's reached that point. unfortunately.
Yeah, so that's okay. So I understand that. So then the question would be the following: is it fair to say that like if you were to say right now, who are the top, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 conservative media companies out there? You got Fox, you got Daily Wire. Who else would you put out there? Would you put Blaze as one of them as an option?
I don't know. I don't have access to their financials. It's a question I couldn't answer.
So let's put aside the financials. Let's say influence. I guess let's just measure it by influence that you and I can see. Who would you put as?
Like PragerU?
PragerU is a nonprofit.
That's part of Daily Wire.
And they're
forward
part
publishing.
of Daily Wire now. I'm talking more like CNN, MSNBC. You got whoever they have on the other side.
You're talking eyeballs. You're talking views. You're talking clout.
Yeah, I'm talking about like if I say who are the biggest podcasters today, not political at all. Okay, you got Rogan, you got, Impulsive, you got, whoever, call her that, all these things that you see, not necessarily political. You can say these are the most influential ones, right? Within the conservative side, who would you say are the top 5 most influential media companies today?
I mean,
Fox is on there.
Yeah, you'd name them. I mean, if people consider them, conservative, you'd have Fox on there. You'd have Daily Wire on there. You'd probably have like a Red State Town Hall. Salem is a big one.
Okay, yeah, very familiar with them.
I don't know. I mean,
KRLA's with Salem, right? KRLA's with Salem, KKLA's with.
They have like Red State Town Hall, a lot of radio stations, so they're really big.
You know why I'm asking a question? I'm asking a question because I don't know if there's enough of them. That's what I'm asking.
I think, that's the point.
Yeah. So if there isn't enough of them, so you guys, if I can get this, if I can get it right, you're planning on building a conservative media platform, recruiting other talent to come in under your umbrella.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, but it's a different approach.
Yeah.
And
perfect.
This is why it's different. Is I don't need to do it. Right, so this is and Ben I've known for a very long time. I think Ben is the best at what he does. Certainly among them, you'd have like Mark Levin's up there, of course. At one point, like Rush Limbaugh.
Yep.
But Ben didn't do that until Daily Wire happened. Before that, he was working other places like Breitbart and Truth World. The issue is when all these companies do it the same way, right? It's the same. It's people talking about news, and that's fine. But at a certain point, you have to ask if it's by design. Now, here's the thing: it's because these companies need people to do that in order to. And look, I can tell you this: when I was working at Fox News for like 4.5 years, Change My Mind was something that was pitched to every major publisher. I've talked about this. It was pitched as a segment at Fox News, and people said that will never work. Said it will never work. People want 4 or 5 minutes. They want it snappy, right? They want you in a quadrant view. One time I think I was on with Lanny Davis, or might have been Doug Schoen on Fox News. They had this in this quadrant view, and I was always getting in trouble. I'd always get called into the second floor. But
Shocking.
We're in the same room, and they have us on these quadrant views. I'm like, well, why is he doing it? I'm right there.
Here I am.
And so at the end of the segment, I think it was Lanny Davis. I was like, hey, Lanny, high five. And I reached into his quadrant.
So funny.
And they were like, you can't do that because people like it to seem really international. I was like, I don't really know if that's what people necessarily want. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to go out and do a comedy show, which they said conservatives don't really like comedy this way at that point in time. They said, you can't do what? You're going to sit down with random people to have conversations for an hour unedited, 2 hours? I said, yeah. I remember when I pitched it as a book, although at that point the term social justice warrior didn't exist or triggered. So the term I used was American idiot, because Green Day was big at this point in time. And I separated between them and sort of the modern leftist. And they said, no, the only thing we can sell to conservatives is the doomsday books. And it's not a bad book, but the Obama Blueprint was a really big book at that time. They said, do you have anything like this? And I said, well, that's not me. So I don't need to do, we can do Muck Them and do our show, right? Matter of fact, we'd be more profitable just doing that. But providing a platform for people who aren't looking to make it big in the conservative space, but particularly people you'll see with the people who we sign and the names as someone who's done comedy. You're Adam and you're Vinny.
Yeah.
Sorry, I almost said Adam. People who can be who they are and reach a different group of people. There's a reason too. The conservative demographic it's quite literally dying off, unfortunately, and it's very lucrative to sell them certain kinds of messaging, certain kinds of content. And I don't mean immoral, but when people are precluded from reaching them. There are a lot of people out there like me, like Jill, like our audience. The average viewer is a 20-something, 30-year-old college-educated male. They're not tuning into Fox News. They're not tuning into a lot of AM radio, but they are tuning into what we do because it's a comedy show. And I don't mean a comedian who does a show, and that's right. Like a lot of comedians, they'll host podcasts. It's not a comedy show.
Exactly.
This is an entertainment show, and the reason we had to go and do it on our own was That's never going to work. And then every time you sit at that side of the table, whether it's Fox, whoever it is, they go, can we change it so that you can fit into the box this way? Because that's our box. And we want to do the opposite. And we don't have to do it. We can say, what's your box? What is it that you are? Let's give you the opportunity to let your freak flag fly.
So I want to go on this. I want to go a little bit more on this, but I want to quickly, the question I want to ask you in a minute here is, you're right, you don't have to do it, but you are a voice. You do have a massive following. And there is a niche, there is an emptiness that we need somebody to do it. Great if you're going to do it. And what's the structure going to be different? And then you made a comment about Fox. You said some would call Fox a conservative. Some would take that as a dig, but I want to come back to this here in a second. Today's sponsor,
when I said, I mean,
let me just do it quick.
Apologies.
Today's sponsor is Goldco. Okay, let me tell you why Goldco. I've been in the financial industry for nearly 22 years now, and I've been able to invest into a lot of different things: stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate, all this stuff. We have no idea what's going to be happening with the economy, inflation, interest rates. When it comes down to a small percentage of your money to hedge against inflation and crisis taking place, gold may be a good investment for you. We looked at Goldco. We looked at a lot of different folks. We talked to people that work with these guys. We like what they have to do. I myself like to do business with companies like this. If you want to get into the gold investment yourself, give these guys a call. They're a 6-time Inc. 5000 winner, 2022 Company of the Year with thousands of 5-star reviews, and have helped people like you and me place over $1 billion in gold and silver. Valuetainment viewers could get up to $10,000 in free silver and a free 1-ounce silver Ronald Reagan coin with a qualified order. Call them 855-594-2758, 855-594-2758, or go to goldco.com/PBD, goldco.com/PBD. Rob, let's put the link below. So let me go back.
That's a lot of free silver. Are you serious?
Yes.
Giving it, yeah.
Yes.
You want some of that?
I would love some of that.
Come and get it, baby.
I love
Come and get it, baby.
A Persian who loves gold.
Is that a surprise?
give something
It's never happened before.
I bet at your house you have like those lions that are like fountains, right? That kind of stuff.
Dude, you know what? I
were
don't.
not- You don't?
I married a white girl from Texas.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. My kids are like half and half.
Because
but
white girls from Texas don't love status symbols.
they don't like lions like that with the gold.
There
and
are
all.
some places though in Texas. where
You're
you'll
right.
see those,
Highland
like-
Park. I've been to those places where you see lions, but they're white. They're white.
Yeah,
They're not
white
gold
lions.
lions.
And
Well,
the
they're still
rug
racist.
is like
Middle
$300,000.
Easterns are gold lines. White are white lines in Highland Park. By the way, first time I moved to Dallas, and I'm in Highland Park. We're having dinner at one of the restaurants there, and the lady says, "You know, Dallas is one of the most vain cities in the world." I
Yes.
said, So what do you mean? He says, "You want to do any kind of surgery, augmentation, this, Botox. This may be the #1 city for doing any kind of cosmetic surgery."
Dallas?
That's Dallas for you.
Yeah.
Specifically Highland Park, by the way.
Yeah, you end up leaving there looking like Jennifer Coolidge.
That's a MILF right there. buddy.
Hey, but
I don't know. We're using that term loosely.
Don't be disrespecting them
We're
MILFs out there.
using that term loosely.
Just like the skin. Don't forget to do the neck if you're doing your.
It's Stifler's mom.
Respect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way,
I was told.
I was friends with
Oh,
her.
come on. That's not. You're bringing that up to the audience. I look like it. That's not. Like,
No.
Yeah.
Pull her up from White Lotus, then you'll get a really
Yeah,
good
then
view
you'll
of
know
what
what's
she looks
up.
like now.
So let's go back to it. So, Stephen, the question is, one, you don't need to do it, but you're choosing to do it. So if you're recruiting talent and you now know what Daily Wire's contract is because you've gone directly with them, you now know what Fox's contract is, you now know what Blaze's contract is. You kind of got experience of the top guys in the marketplace, how they do. So that kind of gives you an edge to say, we don't want to do it this way. We don't want to do it that way. Here's what we're going to do. So my open-ended question for you will be the following. Assume a lot of people that love your stuff are watching this, and they're talent. They may want to come and run with you, okay? And they may want to say, okay, Stephen, let's come run with you. Here's what we want to do. What are some things a talent is going to get from teaming up with you that they may not get at other places?
Well, here's the deal. It's and he's obviously Gerald is
I've had
CEO.
several conversations like this recently.
Yes.
with
Well, you
talent.
need to be closer to the microphone.
Yeah, no.
Get in there like it's
Lean in. Yeah.
But I will say this, having experience with stand-up, it's a perfect example. When you're doing stand-up, right, when you start out, you're starting doing whatever it was. Like when I was, you're middling, doing, when you're on the road, you're being paid. You're getting a few $100s to middle to feature. And then if you're a headliner, you might get $1,500 for the whole weekend. And then you reach a certain point where you're doing these venues, they give you a minimum guarantee, okay? So this is not reinventing the wheel. A minimum guarantee doesn't matter if your aunt, your uncle, and your dad show up, right? Or you say, you know what, lower that guarantee, and I'll take a higher percentage of the gate. So when I do live shows, I say, like, give me basically the closest you can to no guarantee and the highest percentage of the gate. That's all it is. It's a sliding scale. You always need to have upside to be incentivized, and especially when they're content creators, you always need to have some ownership and autonomy in the realm of comedy. Or some people want more of a guarantee. So this side is more of an employee. This side is basically you're doing a revenue split. And depending what it is that you want or need, if it's production, if it's editing, if it's social media, that changes the percentage. You can bet on yourself, get a higher percentage of the gate. Or we also have options where there's a higher minimum guarantee. It's not reinventing it. This is how it works in the entertainment industry. The only place it doesn't work that way is in, that I've experienced is in the right-wing media sphere. It's very bizarre. It's an anomaly.
So it's interesting what you're saying. If I'm reading this correctly, I've ran a insurance company now for 13 years, going on 14 years. And I've been in the insurance industry for 20 years. I started off with Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley gave me a salary plus commission. I made the least money with Morgan Stanley Dean Witter because they gave me a salary, so my commission was like this. Then I went to Trans. Trans gave me a commission like this with zero salary.
I love how he says Trans gave me this.
Yeah.
Someone's going to
Transamerica. Somebody's going to cut that. Sure. Somebody's going to cut that clip.
Transamerica.
Pat, you were just canceled.
WFG.
Pat
You
canceled.
set me up.
Oh, you made some comments earlier about Kobe, where I was like, he's like Kobe, he would be ice cold. I'm like, did he just say that?
Yeah. This trans thing.
You have to
apologize.
have a degree to understand the last joke he just gave, but there's levels to this. This guy's a little too brilliant for.
I don't think you need a degree to understand what assuming room temperature means.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
So here, going back to the question. So, Transamerica, to be exact.
Don't do it again.
Oh, you like that, buddy?
This is it. Is this what you want me to do right here? Is that what it is?
Transamerica.
You're too professional.
In LA,
the internet's a horrible
in
place.
LA, this would be a
Crips.
gang. Just so you know, in LA, this is a gang. So,
Yeah.
so they pay commission. Then we start our own company, and same thing. Okay, it's commission based. Here's how it works. Go do your thing. The upside is big. You can make tens of millions, but at the same time, you got to do the work. You got to go out there. And you got to do this. You got to do that.
Right.
This attracts a certain set of talents where your skill set as an operator has to be being a kingmaker, okay? Where a person like a Daily Wire or a Fox, their model isn't necessarily to be a kingmaker. They attract kings, meaning Daily Wire didn't build Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson is a king.
Yeah.
They recruited a king that went and joined Daily Wire, right? Fox News didn't build Beck, didn't build you, didn't build Tucker, didn't build O'Reilly, didn't build a lot of these guys. Now, some may say,
well, they certainly didn't build me.
Yeah.
I would say I had great people at Fox,
Yeah.
but I was they were like, you can't say that. I'd be like, what? They'd be like, could you put on a jacket? I'm like, wow, I don't. They kept wanting me to change, and it just wasn't the right fit. I was 21.
but that's the point, though. So is your plan to kind of whoever comes and joins you and runs with you guys, that you're going to share with them the tricks to the game that worked for you? So it's almost like, and I don't know if you follow basketball or sports or not, where the Golden State Warriors were like, yeah, we're not going to go put a super team together, bring this guy, bring that guy. Let's draft. Let's bring in Steph Curry. Let's bring in Clay. Let's bring in Draymond. Let's build these guys up, and boom, let's win 4 championships.
Yeah.
Is your plan to recruit more greenies?
No.
Or are you guys also willing to pay the $5-10 million to recruit some big names?
Well, I would say actually, like, for example, with Daily Wire,
Yeah.
or even like the Blaze,
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson's an exception. He really is an exception. It was very recent that they brought in someone like him because, yeah, he is a king. He's an unbelievably talented and has an unbelievable audience. I mean, if you go back to Fox News, right, you're going back a while, like Sean Hannity after 9/11. I think he was out of Atlanta. Then he became nationally syndicated. They brought him in. Bill O'Reilly was Inside Edition. Beck, before that, had a huge radio show, and he was on, I think it was HLN. So what they would do is bring in people who were kind of that middle tier, and then they were more of a platform to kind of be a springboard. But what you see with a lot of them is when they leave Fox, their podcasts don't really work that well, right? Because this isn't just sort of a passive viewership. Yeah, I mean, there's some folks, you
That's
know.
hard. Listen.
Well, because you don't have people telling you that this is who you want to watch.
Dude.
People are tuning into you because you're interesting,
Yeah.
not because you have, a giant crane cam and a crotch camera
Yeah.
with a see-through desk.
Did you shave your legs, Steven? Did you do this? Fix your hair? Do the makeup?
I just
by
went in the way God made me.
One of the things, if the audience is watching this, I was very impressed to see. He came with a makeup girl that did his makeup for 45 minutes before today's
Beautiful.
podcast.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was very
Beautiful.
impressive. How,
Yeah.
the hair, somebody was fixing your hair in the back.
I know,
I'm
you
impressed.
thought the syringes were for black heroin. It was just botulism.
So going back to that, I had a couple guys here. I'm talking to anyway, some of the guys from Fox News, and they said to me, "Let me tell you, this is Murdoch, but let me tell you the magic behind Roger Ailes." I said, "What's that?" He was a kingmaker. Okay, I said, "Tell me more." He says he knew how to get somebody to poke him here, push him here, challenge him here, show him this, take this angle, think about doing this, show him the place. He was a kingmaker, so he know how to do that.
Yeah.
Is your game plan to go from being a talent to want to be a kingmaker?
Well,
That's a
long term. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Long term, right?
You know what I'm asking
Yeah,
you, right?
long term. There's
Okay.
no bench. Like, so I said this a long time ago, where I would love to retire, and I don't mean necessarily be like less P Diddy, like more Suge Knight, like dangling Vanilla Ice outside of a balcony, you know. Where if I want to move,
Great
Suge Knight.
90s
I
rap
wanna be
reference
Suge Knight.
right there.
Love
Death
it.
Row. I saw a guy today walking with a Death Row Records like shirt.
Yeah.
Like, I want to say, hey, Death Row, but then I don't really know the city that well. He could be like, shut up and shoot me. I have no idea. But
it could
no,
happen.
that's
If you were in
more
a city
LA.
called
the
Liberty,
whitest guy who's a
no,
Liberty
if
City,
he's in Liberty City, yes, not
Okay.
here. Yeah,
Yeah, you're good.
So I would love to retire and eventually produce content more, but there really can be no next show like mine, you know, Louder with Crowder, unless there's an environment where it can exist. And if you have to be in an environment where you have to play ball with these, you know, these big tech effectively, I mean, you could say do a tripopoly. Really, you're really talking about 3 companies. It can't happen. It can't happen. There cannot be a show. I mean, Gerald and I talk about this all the time. I can't imagine what our show would look like if we had to be advertiser friendly, let alone never be suspended on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, we just decided to forego the money. And by the way, I don't really care so much about the revenue on YouTube. We've talked about this, but once we were demonetized, you know, that was the Vox apocalypse, they stopped counting our subscribers. So the number would be about 12 to 15 million subscribers in the main channel. And what we had was, for years, I was monetized, the channel, and we were gaining between 120 to 250,000 subscribers every single month. I think our lowest month in that period was 80, and our highest might have been close to like 300. Then we were
In a month.
In a month.
Yeah.
Every month was over 100-something thousand. The average was 130, something like that.
like that, yeah.
Then we were demonetized.
Yeah.
The Vox apocalypse, because they couldn't remove us because we didn't violate any policies.
Yeah.
Right. You see Susan Wojcicki, who was talking at the Recode conference, saying like, sorry, it's not really hate speech, but we'll create a new rule of borderline content. So the second we're demonetized, boom, we were down to 10,000, at most 30,000 subscribers a month, because you can't find us in browse. If you search my name and the title of the video, you'll find something else. Someone screwed up at Google YouTube and accidentally remonetized us. Was it for like 4 months?
3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months.
We're like, what?
Boom. 130 to 200,000 average per month again. Wow. Demonetized down to 10 or 30. And here's the reason why, is because it's a finances game. Of course YouTube wants to migrate people toward advertiser content.
yeah.
And then, of course, they want you to play ball and say, by the way, you need to be advertiser friendly. Don't talk about the trans thing. Don't talk about the election. Don't talk about the vaccines. And then when you have conservatives saying, hey, you know what? We want to make sure we keep making this revenue from YouTube. Think about that. When people say, and I used to be a libertarian, you know, until I grew out of it, and I would still be considered more libertarian than most conservatives. But it's not a free. It's not about a private company doing what they want. When these people enjoy benefits, both as far as policy, as far as taxes, from the government, Section 230, right? When they're protected, they use the law when it's convenient, and then they violate the law when it's not convenient, and they use that to engineer the kind of content not only that you see, but that is on there. So, yeah, we kind of just said, okay, we'll decide, like, rather than 12, 15 million, but not being able to discuss anything, we'll have to build it the hard way. It is a very, very difficult slog. That's what bothered me, was the lack of access to new people, right? If you have a storefront that's always boarded up, it's really hard to generate new customers. And it's the same thing. It's hard to generate new viewers. The viewership that we have on the show is almost 100% from people who bookmark it and check it every day.
Wow. So the suggestions for you is not that high.
I think it was less than 2%.
Suggestions is less than 2%.
Browse, search, suggested. They were in single digits, all of them. Yeah.
Wow.
Holy sh!
They probably suggest people watch something else other than our show.
Probably
By
you.
the way, you know what is well, if I got
Well,
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
yeah.
That's going to be the thumbnail.
With that, I mean, come on, who's not watching?
But by the way, so going back to that, I bet if you were to show the data on what happened with dates, that would be an interesting thing to look
We
at.
could probably, hey, could someone watch it? We could probably send them to you right now.
Oh,
if you have your guy reach out, we could send you at least the before and after.
I would love to see that data, to just show it. If you can, I don't know who in your communication with, if you want to send them a.
I think you had an email earlier setting up some of the tech stuff. Those guys might.
Gerald, do you have your phone with you?
Yeah, I do. They can
you
text it to me too if I.
Okay, if
And
you want
you can
to.
text it to me, I can get it up on the screen.
Fantastic.
All right,
so
we'll see if they
so
can-
let me go to the next question, which is all within the same topic. So there's a difference when I went from being an employee to a salesperson. It sucked because I had a warm salary. Now I don't.
Right.
Oh my God, it was so annoying. Okay.
Yeah.
Then you go from salesperson, you learn how to close. Then you become a sales leader. You're teaching other people how to learn how to sell. Let me tell you, it's very annoying.
Sure.
Very annoying. You have to have the pace. How do you not understand? Use this script. If I can do this, and so they couldn't do it. All right, so you got to be patient because it takes a long time. So then I went from being a sales leader to CEO. I sucked as a CEO. So I go in, I'm like, I have to find out what it is. Being a business owner is different than a CEO, right? Sure. So for you, do you really, as a talent, like I used to sit there and watch a lot of the guys I was in business with who were very, very good. These people I respected. Till today, I respect for what they built. Why did they never go start their own companies? And I would ask them, you're very good. Why didn't you go start your own company, deal with compliance, deal with all that stuff? Why don't you stay put? He says, I don't want that life.
Yeah.
So talent, think about O'Reilly. Think about Hannity. Think about Tucker. Think about, I can give you a bunch of these names. Think about on the other side, Cuomo, Tapper, Maddow, Cooper. Think about all of these guys. Why did they never go and say, I'm going to start my own company? Okay. And then let's go on the podcast side, because you may say, well, it's a different reading a teleprompter, and today and you see their eyes going like this the entire time. Okay, he's reading a teleprompter. Yeah. Okay, a lot of people. This is hard. What you do is very hard to keep people's attention. 100,000 people's attention. You did one for 16 hours. I don't know what it was.
16 hours, yeah.
16-hour live. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So do you really, as a creative, want to go into dealing with talent and telling them and giving them tips on how to build and manage?
I'm not going to tell them what to do. That's the thing. I'm not going to tell them. And here's the thing.
That's different.
Yeah, it is different. Well, that's also why he's CEO.
Yeah.
Now, it's been a company. I've been running a company for a very long time. I have 20-something employees. That's why I've owned Lauderdale's Craft.
Are you co-CEO? Is it going to be co-CEO model like Ben Shapiro and Jeremy, where Ben is the talent and Jeremy's more like the day-to-day CEO?
I don't know what their inner workings are.
Well, based on what I've heard, I don't either, by the way. Just so you know, a lot of people...
They had money, guys. We don't have that. That's the difference. Is we don't have... That's one thing, too. We've never taken a dime of seed money. We've always made it back literally within the first quarter.
Explain why that's important. The fact that... What is the difference if they do? Because some people may say, well, I know you're saying this, Steven, but the fact that Ben and Jeremy and those guys have money from those oil guys, that I think it's like the fracking guys that got the $3.5 billion and they're funding it, and here's $50 million, $100 million, $300 million, whatever they're doing, so they can go get the bigger guys, right?
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? What is
No, there's nothing wrong with it. Well, I should say this. We do have technically seed money. It's you. It's Mug Club.
Right.
We're not funded by a foreign caliphate like the Young Turks, in some way, and I'm partially joking.
Yeah.
We don't have, oil baron money. We have people. That's it. We don't have a lot of sponsors either. And by the way, 100% of the sponsors wanted to come because we always make sure that they get more value than they pay for. In this industry, right? There's a lot of paying for views and downloads that don't really happen.
Yep.
So for us, we go to them, and the way we've structured contracts is, okay, if you don't like what we do, because we don't do live reads, we do these really weird commercials sometimes that get a little off the beam. We say, if you don't like it, just don't pay for it. And then we don't need to do this. We think you're going to like it. 100% of the time they do. But you have to coach those people creatively, right? It used to be, for example, Gerald remembers this. I would be yelling on the phone with billionaires. I'd be like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Where I had people come in when I had hit, I think, 500,000 subscribers. They said, free is the enemy of premium. Because at that point, we had built a lot of subscribers. I said, well, you don't understand. It's free. It's an advertising venue. It reaches people. And rather than tricking people into paying, you provide value added, and people will pay because they want to support you.
Right.
Sometimes people go, well, hold on a second, I'm paying, and basically the show is out there for free, and all of these sponsors are on here, whether it's 4, 5, 10, and they go, usually it used to be at one point in time we would pay so that it would be ad-free. They go, what am I paying for? We've always tried to make it really, really clear and provide value added. Now, as far as with content, with talent, I'm not going to tell them what to do at all. Like they can do what they want because these are people who I believe provide value added.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, then they can go on their merry way and take their subscribers with them. Like there's no exclusivity.
Completely unique in this industry. Like there's nobody out there in the conservative space that is doing something like that. And essentially, we just kind of got thrown into this a little bit, looking at all the contracts going, gosh, is everybody really doing stuff like this that just really doesn't value the creator, doesn't value the audience the way that we think you should? And then saying, we can probably do something better. And really the better is just giving people the opportunity to be creators. The opportunity he was never given in some of those previous roles. Like, hey, we want you to fit this mold for us. We want you to do it this way. I'm telling creators, like, look, you've already started to kind of have some success. That's great. That's fantastic. Why don't you come and add more value to our viewers and bring your viewers with you? Add more value to them as well.
Yeah.
Right? So that it's just a different model where we don't have to, and go back to your question on the money. if it's your money versus somebody else's money, that's different, right? You put a different work ethic behind every dollar that you have that is on the line
There's no
versus
question
somebody
about it. Yeah.
else's. It doesn't mean you don't value it, but
Yeah.
also there's different interest in it. They're going to be able to dictate a little bit more what happens if you have other people's money.
Yep.
I have investors in my other business. I have a wine business. And of course, those guys want to see a return. And if things aren't going the way that they should go, and maybe I've made all the calls, they're going to say, hey, you need to make different calls, or we need a different you in that role.
Plus, they're
the
usually
calls.
drunk.
Well, that's why I chose the wine business. It's hard to be mad in the wine business.
Everyone's very happy.
No, but that's also why Gerald, when we were looking at this, because for the longest time, right, I'd get to this point, well, with like contracts, we have a certain period you're allowed to renegotiate. And often contracts are framed with that's a very short period of time.
Yeah.
And then I'd be under the gun, where I still have always owned everything, but I'm like, this isn't really something that I want to do, or I don't want to do it this way, where Gerald said, hey, look, what if you were to do this? And suggested something similar to what we're doing. And I turned to him and I said, Gerald, I can't do that. And he said, unless I go full time. Because he knows that I can't manage the sales and also do a show every day, which, for every hour people see, it's 4 hours of prep just from me. I mean, we have to be right on the research. We make all of our research publicly available, every single reference. It's like a bibliography, and we post it every single day.
Yeah.
And then we also, we have to do these sketches. We have to, we have punch, we have Photoshops, we have guests. It's more of a television show than a radio show online. It's really kind of the only one in that vein, and that takes a lot of work. And one thing I will say is, you said that you weren't did you say not a good CEO or not a good sales trainer?
I was not in 2014.
Okay.
2013, I was not a good CEO yet.
So here's the thing. The one thing I will say, the only thing that I'm really decent with in business is, the old Wayne Gretzky quote. He was mentioning basketball, the Canadian in me. I'm like, let's go to hockey. No one knows.
You miss 100%.
It's 100%.
No, not that one where he said, don't go where the puck is, go where the puck's going to be.
Yeah.
I've always been pretty good at understanding where the puck is going to be. Beyond that, I have always had a problem and a struggle with managing people who aren't like me. And you're probably this way, right, as a self-starter. Sometimes, like the people we've worked with for forever, like the retention rate is insane with some of these people, are people who you go, hey, I need to get this done. They go, great. And they find a way to do it. I'm results-oriented. There are some people who need to be managed more. And then they'll get upset if they feel like they're being micromanaged. The people who I've worked with really well are people who are I don't necessarily know how to manage people who aren't similar to me. I'm a creative type. Gerald's good at that. And that's where we're at the point now. He's been working part-time. He's been on the show. We were just talking about how, because he has a great radio voice, he used to come on and talk about theology and Christian apologetics, and then he would be in that second chair. And he's always run a business, and we've always wanted to make sure that we could maintain a friendship. But then it got to a point where it's undeniable, where he would see me kind of getting just buried. Like, I just don't have time to do all of this.
Yeah. There's no way to do it. And I think you kind of alluded to it. A lot of people think, oh, guys, you guys have been off for, 10 weeks or something like that right now. We've been shooting nonstop, it seems. Shooting like crazy, writing, like all these different ideas. Like all of that takes an incredible amount of time. And to run a business on top of that, and to kind of handle, the fires that you have to put out in this industry, especially when you have a target on your back like he does, it drains you. And so we had to build some infrastructure up with personnel and just making sure we had people in the right places, made some new hires, got the team expanded, because creators not only want a good contract, right? They want to keep their subscribers. They want to know who they are. Like, God forbid, you get to know who the people that are paying you money are when you work for some of these people. They wanted to have the ability to not have to deal with all the back end, like editing and all the other promotional stuff. And people saying, can you just help me with monetization? Like, I know how to create good content, but I don't know all of these different things. It's kind of like dentists. You can go get a loan from a bank right now, being a dentist fresh out of dental school. They'll give you money left and right. And then everybody, the financial services people, are right behind the dentist when they go in, because they know their craft. They don't know how to run a business, right? And make money. That's what a lot of these creators are doing.
By the way, you're right.
But they just don't know how to run the business.
You're right. By the way, dentists don't. A lot of
they're notorious for it. I knew a girl. She had just graduated.
Yeah.
She had just gotten. She was like, "You're never going to get a loan." And she goes, "Oh yeah, the bank was ready to give me like $150,000." What? I'm trying to start my business, and I'm like, I've got a model that's proven over 7 years.
Most doctors have no clue what to do with their money. They're clueless with money. You go to their house, they're making $600,000 a year. You think they have everything on.
No.
Nothing. And the reason is because everybody thinks they know it all, because their name is what? Doctor. So the challenge is you're a great content creator, but it's different managing talent. So and you said he would be doing some of the stuff. If they're wired like you, it is what it is. But here's a question. So what's the vision of the company? If you were to say our vision is to ... what would the vision of the company be?
Well, I would say it's not my vision. That's the thing. It is the vision of in this industry, you always owe somebody, right? And so my first job ever, I don't really talk a lot about me or my kind of history on the show, but a lot of people know was this kid's show Arthur on PBS, an aardvark, and he has like a pet dog, and his best friend's a bunny.
You were the voice at 12, right? Or something like
at
that.
12, yeah. I was the voice of the brain, who was a bear, black bear. I had to do the Kwanzaa song for Christmas, the Christmas special. Drugs clearly involved in this idea. And that was the first thing I ever did. I'd been doing like extra work before that. Started doing stand-up in my mid-teens, which took me kind of full. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I was so bad, too, at the Kwanzaa rap because I was embarrassed. I was 12 years old, and I looked up Kwanzaa. They're like, I had to go on there and say, what's his name? Karenga, the Kwanzaa founder. And I turned to the vocal director. I said, do you mean Ron Everett? I was 12. I said, you mean Ron Everett, the guy who beat women with soldering irons and poured bleach in their mouths and is a wanted sex offender in Los Angeles? Like, we're putting this alongside Christmas and Hanukkah?
And you're saying this at 12?
At 12. Oh, so you knew you were going to be this type of person.
I was fired at 13.
Happy bar mitzvah.
People knew this was coming.
Talking about Kwanzaa here, the face of Kwanzaa.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, see, now I'd have to apologize. That'd be Black Bear
You're
Face.
Black Bear Face.
Black
right
Bear
here.
Face.
Oh, my God.
But to be fair, it was also really bad where they had me do like 4 or 5 rap verses.
Oh, God.
And it was so bad. I was so embarrassed that they just added in background singers. Hey, come together now. I'm like, hey, they're missing 4 of my verses.
Oh, my God. That's so funny.
On purpose.
So that's what I started with doing that. And I'm trying to go back to your question now. I've gotten
Vision.
off on
Vision.
the vision.
Yeah.
So you always owe somebody.
Yeah.
And the same thing, right? Even when you start out and like when you're doing stand-up, it's kind of the beauty of stand-up comedy is you get to see these microcosms, right? Like I'm sure you've had hell gigs where you have these, like I had one guy one time try to pay me in Coke.
Oh.
Have you ever had that?
I've had that, and I've had the guy go, hey, man, I don't got all the money. We had to drive to the projects for him to sell drugs, get money for me to get fucking paid.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, no, I don't do drugs.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. He said, well, you'll sell it, make more money. I said, no, I don't do drugs.
Yeah.
Like, who do you want me to make the call right now to the authorities? So you experience these things because you owe, right? And then you owe somebody in the industry or you have to do somebody a favor. We do owe. We owe entirely Mug Club. And that's why we have this massive paying subscribership because they are investing their dollar. Really, it's this simple. They think we're fighting for them. They think most conservatives are fighting for them. And they're disenchanted, and they feel like there aren't people who represent their viewpoint. You know, I've been in this industry for a long time, both on the sort of secular, the entertainment side, and then the conservative side. But I didn't grow up, like we didn't have Fox News in Canada. We really didn't have AM radio. Occasionally I could pirate like Rush Limbaugh, I think like Dennis Prager from Plattsburgh, New York when I'd be in Montreal. But I did grow up watching Letterman. Right, I did grow up watching Conan. John Stossel was a big influence where I found out I was conservative before I even knew what that was when he would Give Me a Break on TGIF.
Had him on the show multiple times.
Oh, I love how he always, when he gets a little persnickety and he like talks to you like you're 12, like, you say that, but you're investing in gold. And you're like,
He spoke like that to me for 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
So,
So, Adam, you say this, but really, you're here on a podcast.
Yeah.
But he was brilliant. He's really a sharp guy.
For sure.
So that was my influence. And I sat around and I would go, well, there's nothing there for me. There isn't for me. Like, when you look at that point, you have every single late night show. You have every single comedy show and entertainment show. Every single one was left. And no one on the right was really actively trying it. And they were actively telling you that it wouldn't work. At some point, you owe. So I sat out and I just said, I'm going to do what it is that I would like to watch, where people told me there weren't enough people out there like me. And then that ended up being the audience, and then eventually Mug Club. And those are the people we owe. So the vision is you are investing in us to entertain and to fight for you. Well, that's what we're able to do without the shackles that a lot of other people come with.
So there's not really a okay. So you know, Daily Wire is going to be watching this tonight. So and I know you can't say yes or no, but they're watching this, okay? And they're watching to size you up. They're watching to see if you guys are going to be able to compete with them or not. The world of competition is very brutal, and they're you know that. I don't need to tell you any of that. They're watching it. And by the way, whether they're going to say they watch it or not, you know, sometimes you're like, oh, did you watch it? No, I bet, you know. So, well, a true competitor, which they are, they'll be watching this. Now, here's a question: if the vision is like that. So it's not like you guys are here saying we're going to build one of the largest media companies and be able to do X, Y, Z and fight the fight against the woke, the establishment, with what they're doing. We're going to do our part, and we're going to build a company that's going to be able to go out there and fight for the average conservative in America for the values and principles that we have. And by doing so, we're going to be able to build a multi-billion-dollar company to do movies, documentaries, shows. That's not the vision. That's not what you're selling. Or is that?
No, that's not. But here's the big difference. So, for example, you can bring in someone who's, let's say, is immensely talented, like a world-class stand-up comedian. Some people who we're working with. Okay, you can bring him in and say, by the way, or a documentary filmmaker who, we have some people. So different people who and we'll be making probably. Tomorrow there might be some announcements as far as, you have tentative agreements and you have official agreements, but there'll be at least twice the content starting March 20th.
Okay.
And eventually it'll be triple, it'll be quadruple. As long as no one has to compromise what it is they believe. But we don't bring in, for example, a world-class stand-up comedian and say, you need to do a daily show that you don't want to do and then a documentary. We say, hey, you're looking to do a special. Let us give you a tailwind. Let us be the wind under your sails for that special. You're a comedian. Be the best comedian you can be. We're not trying to fit them into a box. And then if a documentary filmmaker comes in and says, hey, I want to make this film, it's going to cost X $100,000 or X million to produce it. We don't go, okay, you can do that, but you have to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z for us to fund that. We say, okay, great. Be the best documentary filmmaker that you can be. The issue is there really is no platform out there where people can be exactly who they are without certain strings attached that may not be, by the way, with any malicious intent, but it ends up having the same net result where it becomes very, very homogenous. You and I both know this. On the conservative, there's a reason it's really easy for the left to say, look, they're boring. It's a bunch of Tucker Carlson like on CNN Crossfire days with a bow tie. It's a Tucker Carlson lookalike convention, right? This is your conservative movement where it all looks and sounds the same.
Who's saying that though? But who's saying
everyone on the left? I mean, here's the best, most effective attack that someone on the left can do. Okay. Yeah. And we'll get this sometimes. We'll be on the show, and like you just mentioned, Anderson Cooper,
right? Or
sometimes like Chris Cuomo, where you just run the clip, and that's it. The setup is its own punchline because it's so bad it doesn't require commentary. That happens a lot from people on the right, where maybe some people go, I really like what they're saying, so they don't realize how it comes across maybe to someone who's just looking for the content side of it. And you'll see the left often, they'll just run something and go, all right, there you go, and they'll move on.
You think so?
Not all the time, but sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, because okay, so what?
There's a reason they put together hit reels for us like Fox.
Listen, I'm not an owner in Fox. I don't know shares. I look at I watch what Russell Brand did 3 days ago on what do you call it, Bill Maher, and he called out that MSNBC person, and he was stuck. So bam, 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 bam. Well, you tell me, you keep calling out the Fox News, but how about you guys? What have you done? Look at yourself. So tell me one thing that we've done. He says, you're serious? You want me to talk about Joe Rogan? You want me to talk about that? So, and it was so embarrassing. I'm assuming you saw this.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if I could. I think because I'm in Florida, be doing a show tomorrow.
Oh, fantastic!
Russell Brand, and then like Lex Friedman. Like I said, I'm doing press for a couple of weeks before we
phenomenal.
Do
it. So himself when he comes in, so then even Bill Maher was almost uncomfortable. Like, oh, okay, like let's just slow down. Well, no, it's really also Fox. Meaning, there was a moment where the left could do that with the right, but some are saying Fox could come up right now and say, listen, we are the King Kongs today. Yeah. Number one comedy, Greg Gutfeld, is doubling Kimmel and Fallon combined. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's data. They'll say that. They'll say Tucker is 2.6, 2.7 million, and number two is what? They'll say out of the top 20 shows, we have the okay. You look at the bottom down Lemon where he's at. These things you've heard, I've heard. We see the data, and it's very easy for them to take the shot the way they do, right? Like Joe Rogan. Oh, you want to talk as much crap as you want to talk about Joe Rogan? 11 million an episode. That one, data that came out with the podcast. I don't know if you remember. This was like a year ago, maybe 9 months ago when it came out. Everybody was silenced. Hey, here's how much this came. Yeah. So the Fox could throw their weight around and say, yeah, you guys can say whatever you want. We are still kicking everyone's ass, Gutfeld, Tucker, this, that. They can push their weight around. Sure. The only thing I'm asking from you is,
I hope they do.
Yeah, no,
I hope they do, and I hope they start, supporting real conservative causes and candidates. And a lot of people see Fox News as Republican, not so much. I'm not a Fox News Republican. I'm a traditional conservative.
What's the difference?
Well, the difference, for example, would be if you look at the way they treated certain candidates. For example, if you look at like what happened with Carrie Lake and the loaded questions that they would ask. The same thing where if you look at the way they would treat Donald Trump. The same thing if you look when I was there and Mitt Romney, it was kind of a coronation. The same thing if you look at some of the topics that they'll cover, whether it's covering, the gender bender that's going on with bathrooms. Like a lot of the time, I know that I would tune into it and it doesn't represent what it is that I believe, or certainly I should say not the entirety of it. And a lot of conservatives feel that way. Certainly, a lot of conservatives after the election. There's one thing to say, like, look, the lawsuits were terrible, and of course they were. Like, we were on there reading the amicus briefs. It's another thing to say anyone who thinks that there was an issue going on with the election is crazy. And I'm not, by the way, not everyone is the same there. Like, Tucker is very different from someone like a Greg Gutfeld, who's very different from, I don't necessarily know all the other.
Laura Ingraham.
Laura Ingraham, right.
Hannity. And
yeah, everyone has different
Judge
points of view.
Janine and
Judge
list
Janine,
goes
yeah.
on,
I had done her show quite a bit on the weekend. She's a lot of fun. She was a lot of fun to hang out with.
She carries a stick. When she goes out, she's not afraid to.
no joke.
But here's the thing. I don't see it as competition because our viewership isn't 74. It's not a 74-year-old. And I'm not just saying that as a slate. That is the median viewership at Fox. It might be 72
It's not
now.
that high, though, is it?
It's in the
really?
70s.
pretty high.
I know
Pretty
it's in
high,
the 60s.
No, it's in the
really
70s.
that high?
It's in the 70s.
Holy moly.
Let's call it 65.
Sure.
28,
Still senior
28,
citizens, yeah.
28 years old. And not that we don't target young people. To give you an idea, this is
This is
conservative.
kind of what you were saying about I see where the puck is going, not where it is now.
Well, it's not
That's
where
kind
the
of what
puck
you're
is
saying?
going. It's who I am, and so I'm able to speak to that group of people. The issue is, I think you need to reach all of them. The problem is, it was never profitable to reach younger people, and that's why the median demo just got older and older and older and older, because it's a lot harder to get a bunch of 20 and 30-year-olds to tune in. It's much, much more difficult than to have the current conservative base tune in. So it's not the same thing. And by the way, I hope they reach those people. Look, the baby boomer generation, too, they were conservative generations of all time. I'm the only one saying there isn't only one way to skin a cat, because I've had to do it and been told that it would never work. And that's what hopefully we can provide for other people out there who feel the same way. There are a lot of people in the industry. And March 20th, people are going to see who some of these folks are.
They're looking forward to it. People have been begging for you to come back for a
You
while.
probably have a much younger demo than Fox News.
We do.
Of course,
We're, by the way, what time do you do your show? Is it 11 o'clock that you do your show? Is it when you would? Was it 11 a.m.?
It's 10 a.m. Eastern, right?
10 a.m. Eastern.
10 a.m. Eastern.
10 a.m. Eastern. Okay, I know that because we're 9 to 11 is our show. And then I was like, oh, Steven Crowder. And so,
Sorry.
no, it's great.
I didn't mean to siphon off your.
But the point is, that's the amount of influence you've developed. Now, for us, we're in the space. We have a message. Our audience shows up. Maybe our audience is slightly different than yours. They come because they follow business, and we follow business stories.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the same thing. So it's not.
I don't see you as competition
No.
any more than I see Fox News or what other people like Daily Wire's competition.
But where I'm going with this on the Fox part and what you're saying is, okay. So here's a different question for you. As somebody that is in talks with a lot of people right now, we're going to be signing some talent, and we want to bring them on board to Valuetainment. We're going to be doing that because that's part of what we want to do. We have a vision where Valuetainment wants to go. What could Daily Wire had really done anything to have kept you? Meaning, some relationships don't work out, and you're kind of like, dude, like, I really don't want this relationship to work out, and we're very good to not make a relationship. You're dating a girl, you're like, I have a lot of fun with you. We're never going to be married, and we're never going to have kids. So let me create a problem. Hey, brutal. Let me tell you. You come say, oh my God, I can't believe you said it. You know what I was thinking about the other day? I was having a fantasy about going and doing this. I would never could. This is why I don't think it's going to work out. It's not you, it's me, and boom, and then you fall out. Okay. How much of
Talk about a
this
fantasy that involves a parrot, tube of lipstick, 3 sticks of butter,
Trans
two midgets
America,
reaching around
Trans
with a rubber
America
band.
with the
Oddly
that same
specific
vision.
here.
Yeah. Respect.
It's what we call the litmus test.
Yeah, I got 4 sticks of butter in my world, but hey,
were
keep
you
trying.
were you really open to the idea of going Daily Wire or not?
Yeah,
really?
yeah. As a matter of fact,
you were
Gerald
really.
knows. And by the way, it wasn't just them. Just to be clear, there've been a lot of suitors.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
So let me just.
Yeah, John.
So we were doing the Nashville show, right? You were doing stand up.
Oh, at the Ryman, which is
At the
what used to be
Ryman
the Grand Ole
Auditorium.
Opry.
Yeah, and the whole thing there was like, we had some of the guys were there from Daily Wire, and we knew they were going to be there. And we're like, there's just a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. Like, I really want to perform well because this
After
could
the
be-
election stream on Rumble that week.
went crazy, and so he was very much in the mode of like, I really want to perform well. I want to show these guys what kind of stuff we can do in the live space as well, doing stand up, and not just on the show, right? So the answer to that question is yes. Like there wasn't nervousness because he was like, I just don't like these guys and I don't want to do anything with them ever.
Yeah.
It was like, I really want something to be possibly to be able to work out. But he said it many, many, many times. There was just something in there that we've specifically gone into it that just is a non-starter. All the other terms, all the other stuff you get to, right, in negotiations. That was the thing that I didn't like. It was like, of course you negotiate, yes. But if there's something in there that basically says in this term sheet that you're going to do something that it's antithetical to who we are, then no, we can't get past that. Like, that's just something that's never going to work. So that's why he said, look, just take me out of this. Let's just talk about the movement. He's talked about a bench. That's part of the vision of what we're doing. How is there another Steven Crowder in this current age? Will Fox News step up and go into a newer media category and try to reach a younger audience and swing the big stick that they have to do something for the conservative movement? It's bigger than that, right? Will they stand up and do that? And so when we're looking at it, we're like, well, we don't want to just do this and then kind of ride off into the sunset. We want other people to be able to come up and do this as well. Yeah. Because there needs to be more than just Fox News. There needs to be more options for conservatives out there.
So you guys do want to build something as big as Fox News, if not bigger.
Not as big as Fox
I don't
News.
know, yeah.
Like I've talked about with YouTube is, look, we will build something that will be as big as it grows to be, provided that we can believe in what it is that we're building. In other words, if it comes to a point where I go, okay, but we got to start silencing ourselves and discussing these issues because look at the 10, 15 million we've foregone on YouTube. The minute I find myself making this, I'm done.
Can I ask you a question on the money then?
Yeah.
They say everyone has a price.
Yeah.
And
50 million. No, I'm
50
kidding.
million. Okay, well, I think that was
no,
the
that was
number.
my price.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
One night.
But
Look,
yeah,
that's
you
one
went
thing
on
too. You
set
never heard
some-
me talk about the money. It was
No.
$12.5 million in a contract that would go for an entire production company with 110% penalties at minimum.
Right.
45%, actually 65% of which would have been enacted immediately, like could have been redlined and eliminated, okay? We have 25, 30 employees. We have millions of dollars that we have to pay just in equipment costs and insurance costs, right? The costs for us are in the few $1 million per year just to operate the show. And doing this, that
I was
sounds
gonna say,
probably
just-
about right.
yeah.
So take
I
12
would put a bigger number with the work that you do. Some of the
it's
stuff,
a pretty
'cause you
substantial number.
You actually act. You do skits. You do. I mean, it's not like
A lot of production costs.
Yeah, we had to bring in an entire a 1.5 metric ton of sand to do a Saving Private Ryan parody,
Sick scene, by the way.
We have to have lawyers on retainer like crazy because some of the shit we do is horrendous. Sorry, can I?
Yeah, you can do whatever you
You
want.
just did.
I apologize. I just
It's all
too
good.
late. And
Don't
like
give a
sometimes
shit.
we look back and we go like, oof.
Did we do that?
But you said that whether it's 50 million, you said even if it was
billion.
a billion,
No.
Yeah.
that you're ideologically opposed to what was going on with big tech, censorship, everything like that.
There's no future to believe in if we do the bidding of big tech. And by the way,
So no amount of money.
None.
This is a hill you will die.
there would be
no
nothing
doubt.
more profitable than me.
Yeah.
There would be nothing more profitable than me, for example, leaving, getting a bunch of people to sign up for Mug Club right now. Just the people, by the way, who've already entered in their email at Mug Club Forever. There would be no way to make more money than for me to say, sign up, do it for 2 years, not produce any other shows, pocket the money, and walk. Or to have done that before. That would be the money play. The money play certainly wouldn't be bleeding money to bring in talent, right? To try and produce content. We don't need to do it. What we're really, and this is the challenge we run into, is there are very few people who we can bring in who would be, for example, like an exposure benefit for us. But we don't really care. We know that we can be an exposure benefit for them. And there are a lot of good people out there who've had the door slammed in their face. And yeah, I know some of them who've had the door slammed in their face at Fox News, at some of these other places, because there are very specific instances of them not playing ball that they shouldn't have to play. I'm not talking about anything really pernicious. I'm talking about like, hey, don't discuss these issues. Hey, don't be so rough around the edges. Some people need to be, and that's okay. Only one side is saying we don't need to do it one way. So we'll be as successful as it is based on people saying what it is they believe and not compromising it.
But it's just a different starting goal, right? I use this analogy with pastors. Like, your job as a pastor is not to grow your church. Your job as a pastor is to faithfully convey the word of God to whoever shows up and let God take care of the growth. It's just the focus is slightly different, right? So we're saying, look, our goal is not to grow a company and become a behemoth like Fox News or anybody else that's out there. Our goal is to make sure that there's a pathway for creators and that the audience is always the number one, the only person that we have to perform for, that's the audience.
Well,
that's
as
it.
a Jew,
and
if I come to your church, I want you to get me to convert.
There you go. Well, we can talk about this. I went to ministry school.
And
Well, your goal could be if you're Joel Osteen stuffing money in the wall.
Well, you got to put it
exactly.
somewhere, and you need insulation. It works.
So guys, obviously the left has a chokehold on. Think about it. When you name the top 5 conservative, we were having problems coming up with 3. They have a chokehold, and it takes thank God, little moments like Elon, who's I don't really know where he's political, but he buys Twitter. We're seeing files. We're seeing the lies. We're seeing all this shit with the lap leak. Do you think, Steve, the tides are shifting, and people like you, like what Pat's doing, what you guys are doing? Do you think there's light at the end of the tunnel for the other side, the other voice?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's definitely been a shift. So actually, I wanted to go back to something, and this kind of ties in that Patrick said. He said niche. I don't have the numbers, but I remember a Breaking Bad. I think there was about 14 million, maybe it was 12 million people tuned into the finale. And when they did some focus groups, I believe it was like 80%. It was a significant majority were Republican. Take the highest viewership ever on Fox News, it's still about a third of that. So when people say, oh, what you do is more niche, no, and I think even like we don't really talk about our numbers a whole lot. They're reflected in that, right, with no seed money. It's not niche to have an entertainment show that people will tune into, whether they're conservative or not. I would say it's more niche to just do rah-rah talking points. Because if you look, there's a huge, think of how many people vote Republican. And you're talking about like these huge numbers, right? Fox News, like Tucker's like 2-point-something million, 3 million is a huge peak. And that's with the Nielsen rating, right? Where the viewership is for seconds, right? You're lucky if it's a couple of minutes. I think that's more niche than, for example, every single comedy late night show, all of Comedy Central, ABC, NBC, but it's entertainment. It's very different. So going to what you're talking about, I will say this. I've noticed a shift. When I was obviously in the entertainment industry, and then particularly in the stand-up community, like in Montreal, there were no people who were even right-wing or libertarian. I mean, people would get furious. I didn't even know I was conservative, but I would go up and I would make a joke that I remember one time I got in a lot of trouble because it was a joke about Muhammad, which, you know, people get touchy about that.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know why. It's
next thing you know, someone's blowing up a mic. But so I would get in trouble back then, and no one understood that there was an issue with that. Everyone, it was like a comedy witch hunt. Remember when George Bush was president? Everyone just come out and he sucks. Isn't he an idiot? Isn't he a moron?
Yeah.
And it's fine, but I was going, there's no one else at that point in time. That's changed a lot. As a matter of fact, now when you go to comedy clubs, and not just people like Rogan, but you see at least a lot of people understand the idea of free speech. You still get sort of the indie alt comics who say like, it's not cancel culture, it's accountability culture. But really, we had to take a lot of bullets early on doing that because there was nobody in the industry doing it. And I think now for some people it's a little late. They've woken up and realized it. I mean, I think Joe Rogan has done a lot to help with that, obviously. You're talking about his numbers. It's unbelievable. You see like someone like Russell Brand. Like, I'll be doing a show tomorrow. I hope it goes well because I used to lay into that guy hard. Because he was a socialist. He was a communist. And he had this, I don't know communist, but back then, he would do this thing called the Trues News. Oh, the news that you're not hearing anywhere else. And he would talk about it, and then he would constantly go into Fox News. And here you would think that I'm anti-Fox News. My issue was I felt compelled to back then say, well, hold on a second. What about ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC? And he wasn't talking about it back then. And I was the only conservative on YouTube. And so I would dress up like him and do an impression of him and make fun of him. And by the way, not mean-spirited. Like, I understand the guy's immensely talented, right? But I don't think he liked it.
Of course.
And now you see him transition. I don't know where he lines up politically on every single issue, but I do know that he understands the threat we're facing.
He's super necessary. His voice.
He's unbelievably necessary, and that's a transition, though. Back then, it was him with the entire industry, and me kind of in this corner. And now it's at least split. It's almost like a schism in the church. You know?
Couple other questions before we transition. I want to go into some current events, and I think audience wants to hear some current events. There's a bunch of conversations going on here with people talking, but so let's say, and I'm asking this selfishly, okay, and it's just you and I talking with Gerald, okay. If I wanted
I don't like where this is going. It's just you and I alone in a room, candlelight.
Turn off the lights and light a candle. No,
sponsored by KY.
If I wanted to sign a guy like you, okay, and during that time while you're talking to Daily Wire, and we sat down, and I was one of the guys on the table, where would I win to be able to attract a player like you?
I can tell you one thing. There would have to be at least 1% upside.
That's it?
At least 1%.
I mean, that's just where you,
if the sticking point is 0%, it's like, how about 50% past a certain point of net profit? It's like 0%, right? When you're talking about 0% upside, 0% upside, 0% upside.
Got it.
If you started with 1%, you'd be ahead of the game.
So that's so what you're saying is, hey, I come in, I light this up. I don't want you to guarantee me 12.5 years, 2 years, and another, up to 6 years, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to just tell me if I light it up, I can make 20, I can make 30, I can make 40. That's your biggest thing. If you could do that. Yeah.
That's just, it's a starting point. It's at least one. It is a sticking point. And the big thing is, if you also didn't say, by the way, you have to start changing your show so you're monetized on YouTube.
Yeah.
That would be the issue. If you didn't do that, you would be ahead of most of the game.
If I'm signing a guy like you up, you're doing Rumble and you're doing YouTube, right? And you're not really active on. You are active on Rumble and you're very active on YouTube. What you built over the years. the goal would be to develop an OTT monthly subscribership that's going to build value. And the more dollars you brought there, the math is so easy to structure for a guy like you. Why would that be so complicated? Do you understand what I'm asking you? Like,
I realize
if I set it up right
Patrick,
now,
I do realize. You are the one on the table. He said on the table, by the way. He didn't say at the table.
Turn off the lights.
I do not consent.
He's howling in the moonlight like a siren. I'm drawn to him like Yogi Bear.
No, but I mean, so that's what you would think, right? And so seeing these offers come in and literally, and I'm not going to tell you about specifics, but 3-4 offers come in and boom, 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 cookie cutter. And I'm like, have you even seen the show? Like, we're not some startup company coming out where we're going to do 5 live reads. I'm sorry. If that's your thing, that's fine. That's just not us. That's not what we do.
I don't even.
So why would you try to make us fit in that box?
If you didn't say we're 110% penalties on behalf of YouTube, on behalf of Facebook, on behalf of Spotify, and on behalf
Apple.
of iTunes and Apple, all this.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's right. It's not iTunes anymore. I just showed how old I am. Remember back when it used to be iTunes?
iTunes.
No,
Back
it's like
in the
Apple
day, yeah.
Music. All right.
Apple.
That and any percentage of upside, especially if, let's say, you had access to the numbers of Mug Club subscribers, and you knew you'd be making far more than your initial offer anyway. You'd be way ahead of the game. But that was a complete sticking, and not just to be clear.
Yeah.
It's never been about Daily Wire. It really is about the industry and how it operates. And I know what these term sheets, I know what contracts should look like because I've been on the secular side of it since I was 12 years old. I mean, I was having to be tutored on set.
Yeah, but okay. So let's go a little bit deeper with that. So if that was the case, and I said, look, I don't care if you get a strike. I don't care if you do this. I don't care if you get any. I don't care if you get demonetized on YouTube. Yeah, that's a part of the revenue that's coming in. If you're bringing XYZ amount of subscribers to OTT, that's what's going to be the measuring of your success. You drive the hell out of this, $5 million for every XYZ amount of subscribers you bring in. Hey, Pat, I got this many active. Cut them a check for another $5 million.
Yeah.
So every time it's like million. Hey, we did this one. Second year, you made 22 million this year. Great. I hope you make 40 next year.
Yeah.
There is a way to structure the math to do that. I don't think that's like
well, not to be advertiser dependent too. Like there's some role that advertisers play. We love the partnerships that we have.
Yeah.
We're very, very picky about it. We don't just do ads the same way people do. We actually do these really funny commercials that get tons of plays on our Clips channels on YouTube. But it basically makes it, and Elon even said this, he's like, you got to go away from the advertiser model. When he's talking about Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
They play a role, but you can't depend on them because then they dictate the
It's
game.
like a diversified
and I love
portfolio.
the fact that he's doing that. Because,
Yeah,
the whole
absolutely.
$750 million, one of them, and dropped. I was like, what are we going to do with this if we lose this? Well, if you do, you kind of have to answer to them. The other day I was watching Fox, and I saw an ad on Fox.
Was it G. Gordon Liddy?
No, it was an HIV. It was a
Self-lubricated catheter?
Yeah. Well,
I'm Bill Devane.
some of the ads I saw, I'm like, interesting. You're now okay with this ad, and you're doing that. You did the show with trans like 9 months ago. I don't know if you remember.
Yes, I do.
Okay. But if you go to OTT model to drive, and the multiple there is based on how many paid subscribers, and your job is to create constant creative content shows to say you're only going to get this on the OTT, and that's how you get compensated.
Well, for example, like some of the people who we're talking with right now, like some of them, we know they're not going to be generating a bunch of paying subscribers,
right?
And they also don't necessarily generate like YouTube revenue. Some of these people have, history of background, like really large, main network shows where they've been a part of comedy shows, or they have these comedy specials. And so when we bring them in, we say, okay, what is it that you want to do? What is it you bring to the table? And then you find that intersect and you see where you can work together. We know not everyone is going to have the paying subscribership that we have, but here's the thing. We've always focused on trying to add value. That's why we've reduced the price by $10, which people would say is absolutely crazy, while adding content because we've made the numbers work from our end. We want our viewers, and particularly the people who we know felt like they were left out in the cold, who paid and like, well, I signed up here and you're leaving after 4 months. They're going to get a bunch of time free. True North is the audience, what they want and how you serve them. And when you start with that, you will then look at the people who you are working with, talent or produce, and say, how do you serve the audience? Not how do you serve a corporate overlord? Not that there's anything wrong with corporations. Not how do you serve these people on the second floor but how do you serve the audience? And the beauty with the audience is it's more than half of America. It's more than half of the United States of America. And that is not reflected. When we talk about these numbers, look, that's not 2, that's not 3 million. Certainly not at, 45 seconds to a minute and a half a pop. These people are basically, they're out there and there's nothing for them.
Yeah.
And I was one of those guys.
Yeah. And the way you're describing it when Fox is Republican, I'm more conservative. Okay, Daily Wire is this, and those guys are this or those guys are this. The way I'm seeing it is, on the conservative side, Republican side, it's like different denominations of Christianity. You got Presbyterian, Seventh-day, LDS, Catholic, pick them, right? Whatever you may be. You're pretty much following the same commandments. You may be off 90%. Your prophet is a different person. Your NIV is the Bible you follow Book of Moroni, or you follow this. But the structure of what you believe in, more or less, is the same. The challenge then becomes if there's a massive infighting and where you are fighting for the same cause, but it's going up against each other, that could be problematic, because then the cause of wanting to inject or sell the values and principles that you believe in, now it's kind of confused, because Daily Wire, wait a minute, are these guys supposed to be enemies? Are those guys supposed to be enemies? So that's the only challenge where some viewers will have. But to say, I
understand that.
By the way, I do believe you bring an audience to Daily Wire that they don't have. I do believe that. I do believe that Jordan Peterson brings an audience that they don't have. I do believe Prager brings a different audience that they may not have. I do believe Candace brings a different audience, and definitely Shapiro is the guy that brings a different audience. So it's not like the people that already listen to Daily Wire, all of them subscribe to you. There's a different audience they're going to get from a guy like that.
There's a huge different audience. And I think it's also important to note, this is the first time there's ever been, from me, any kind of infighting. People have asked about, we don't even talk about the numbers on our show. I don't talk about it because I just feel dirty. I want the content to speak for itself. It's very, very rare. There are a lot of things that have happened behind the scenes for years that we just don't talk about in dealing with this industry. It is the one and sole time, and that's because you have, I know Joe was about to jump in, you have state borders and you have national borders. So for example, when you talk about Christianity, there are state borders. That's maybe you're Presbyterian or maybe you're Methodist. But then you do have national borders, right? And that's where you would say you have Catholic and you have Protestant. That would be considered, and sure, we share a lot of the same values, but certainly let's just go on the Protestant side. If you get into that territory where you say, okay, yeah, I'm a Protestant, I'm a Bible-believing, I'm a born-again Christian, but I don't believe hell exists, that's a national border. We no longer share the same faith because Jesus came to save us from the fires of hell. Now you are in a different religion.
Sure.
And so if our entire reason for being, at least us, is to fight big tech and fight this Leviathan that we have seen for so long, where we have talked about always, right? It's been flipping the bird to the mainstream, not just media, but entertainment industrial complex and big tech. Well, we can't compromise that because now we're beyond national borders, and everyone else also would espouse those same values, and people think they're fighting for. You have a sponsorship to do. Is that
No, I don't.
Okay, because Jill was about to say something.
Well, no, instead of looking at it as infighting, because you're right, the church a lot of times can be its own worst enemy. Look at it as hopefully iron sharpening iron, right? So we're trying to sharpen the movement and push it forward in the right direction, and we never picked a fight with Daily Wire, and we haven't talked about this. When we have a massive platform to be able to do so for a while, it wasn't picking a fight.
You picked a fight, though. But there's nothing wrong with. But you did kind of pick a fight,
sort of,
though,
right? So think about what we did in that first video.
Yeah,
we said these are the terms in the industry, and this just cannot work this way.
Right.
We're going to go and do something different.
Yeah,
that's it. That's what we did. Now, if people are going to suppose, okay, this is the Daily Wire, and we didn't come out with personal attacks or anything like that. I'm not saying that they did. I'm just saying that wasn't like infighting. That's not me saying like I'm a Protestant, you're a Catholic, and you guys are completely off base. I can't believe it. You can't go have fellowship with these guys because they believe if you don't do the sacraments that you're not saved. How can you possibly believe that? That's not what happened, right? Yeah. Our goal was to say, hey, for us to survive, for this thing to be real and not just talking into a camera and hopefully making some money, we have to do better. We have to do better as a movement. Otherwise, we will go away. Yeah. Eventually, it will just end.
Look, you guys have a choice. People out there have a choice, right? You have a choice. Do you want a movement that includes people who are not beholden to big tech, who do not punish their creators on behalf of big tech, who do not say you have to be monetized? By the way, we will have content creators who are monetized on YouTube. That's the thing. Some people have come to us and said, well, we want to. I go, great. Do it how you want to do it. But we have some people who come in and say, I really want to be less dependent on YouTube. And that gets me more excited.
Yeah.
Do you want a movement that exclusively is beholden to cocktail parties with big tech, or also allow some room for some rebels with a cause, flipping the bird, being a little bit rough around the edges? Yeah. Do you want all of these things?
It depends what the vision is, though, right? If the vision, like the vision...
I'm not talking about a company, though. At that point, I'm talking about a movement at that point.
Totally get it. Yeah. But again, individually, you have a vision. Collectively, we have a vision, right? My vision individually may be different than the vision of the company. Those are two different things. As a talent. Forget about me being a company guy. Assuming I was just a YouTuber, I have a vision with what I want to do with the show, right? The vision for me, the problem is to talk to people who disagree with me, not to talk to people who agree with me.
Right.
That's mine. So for me, if the vision is to convert and persuade, I mean, you know, Cost of Discipleship is the first book you read when you become a gay. We're going to do Christian 101. Okay.
Did you just say when you become a gay?
No, Christian. You read the first book, which is Cost of Discipleship, and you read Mere Christianity.
Sure,
okay, so those are two of the books you read. And one of the whole reason why we're doing this, PBD, is to go out there and, you know, decide. Yeah. Okay, so if our job is to do that, and it's door knocking and it's talking to them, we kind of got to be places where people who disagree with us are. So, for example,
I completely agree.
Yeah. So if you go only on Rumble, like Chris we had Chris at the house. You and I were with him till I don't know what. By the way, the conversation we had with Chris, I said, Chris, make a public offer to Joe Rogan. That's the whole time when people were worried about Spotify being. I said, make a public offer. The next day, he made a public offer. It was a great move from his end. But what I'm saying is, I said, if you're gonna really do if your vision is to sell the company and be a billionaire, great. You got an itch. Go get all the conservatives and do what you want to do. But if your vision is to truly make an impact and persuade and convert, you got to mix it up. Yeah. You got to take a different approach. So that's why I think YouTube is a place where somebody think about how many people watch you.
No, I agree, but I think here's the thing. Here's the thing, because this is what's also like, where would you be without YouTube? Yeah. Look, I was there before anyone at Daily Wire or Blaze or Fox. When I was at Fox News, I would upload. I might be at this point had 100,000 subscribers, maybe 80,000 subscribers. And I remember saying like, "Hey, can I upload some of my hits?" Like I would appear on Red Eye or Hannity or I'd judge Janine. I said, "Can I upload these to my YouTube channel because my people on YouTube, there's no way to reach them. It's not like social media back then. They didn't have community posts." I would say, "So the only way I can reach them is if I let them know through a YouTube video." They said, "Sure." Then legal took them down because they said, "We think this YouTube thing is a fad." So no one understands that better than I do in reaching new people. And I would never willingly just go, let's say, to Rumble or a right-wing echo chamber. But this is something that we have designed from the ground up where we've said, look, the free content is available. We will reach as many people as humanly possible, provided we do not have to forbid ourselves from speaking the truth. And we're able to do that without being beholden financially. This is the model. This is why we've been so fortunate. We're not beholden financially to big tech because of Mug Club, because of subscribers. So if we are ever taken off of YouTube, it's because they decide that we have to go, not
that's
because
fine.
we decide.
No, but that's fine. That's all good. And by the way, for people that are watching this, one of the all-time most famous memes is you. If you want to pull up, if you just type in Steven Crowder meme, I think that's used everywhere. Everybody uses that meme, and they probably don't even know what this means. This meme is literally used by people from the left, right, middle. It doesn't matter. It says to change my mind, right? So that's the part.
Right,
can I ask your producer to bring up my favorite one?
Tell me.
Oh, boy.
Okay, type in change my mind meme. I think it's Stevie Wonder.
Oh God, this is hilarious.
Have you seen it?
No, I think I know where. I just have an idea.
Because so basically, just let me set it up for people. It's the meme is it there? Is it
at the top left?
Top left.
Get out of here.
I knew that was going to go. I didn't want to give it away.
Someone did that, and I was peeing myself laughing.
Oh my God! But again, so to me, this takes guts. Like when you're saying, I get nervous. A lot of people would be scared shitless sitting there going to universities that you go. You got a lot of audacity. You got a lot of courage. You're very necessary.
Try doing it on 6th Street at South by Southwest. It's not just on universities.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. To do that, that's the ultimate in this world, to face that. So kudos to you for doing that. Anyways, look, I asked you a lot of different questions. I appreciate you for being a sport and taking it. Some of the stuff was probably, just so people know, you guys had no clue what we were going to ask you.
No.
I didn't know we were starting live.
Yeah.
I was looking at that sign. Why do you have Hey.
It says live on air.
You're very nice.
That live is
on. Yeah, that's a total
What's up?
Hey, that's why he's rich, because he saves money. We're not paying for that damn life.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, he's nice. He got a lot of good qualities, but that's a dick move. to put a live on air neon sign. Of course, everyone in this chair is looking for it
directly in your eyesight.
Listen,
and we're
Rob just sent me a text saying, I forgot one of the sponsors. My apologies. We have to do it at the 1 hour mark. Our next sponsor is KY Jelly. Today.
Come on.
I thought it was going to be Land O'Lakes butter.
That's
5-gallon bucket
funny.
size.
Oh my God. No, Steve, and Pat, just really fast. And I know, the smoke is kind of cleared. Have you guys have any conversations with Jeremy or Ben or any of these guys? Have you spoken?
I've had a lot of. I would say it's like so. Ben and I have known, like I've always said, we've been friendly for a very long time, right? You've heard me say that, and I really wish that we, very different. Like, it's not like Jeremy and I ever had that kind of a relationship.
Gotcha.
Jordan Peterson, yes. Andrew Clavin, yes. And there are a lot of people who work there behind the scenes who are fantastic people who absolutely. And it's one thing to have disagreements on a vision for a company, but yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with people there behind the scenes.
Gotcha.
So, but no, as far as business dealings, no. And there would be nothing better, for example, than to let's say you were talking about figuratively, you start a network. There'd be nothing better than to say, hey, how about this? How about there's a cross promo link where someone who's in Mug Club gets a discount for your network and they get a discount for our network. Sure, we get less money per subscriber, but you hit a critical mass point and you're not going to have people using it to steal content. I would do that with any conservative network out there. The issue is none of them would do it with not just me, any other conservative
Anybody
network.
else.
You won't see people do that because it's this measuring contest.
I got you. I got it.
Sponsor to go.
Very,
Got
very
you.
much.
KY.
Okay, no,
Discount code.
we literally just did our sponsor with KY. That was just a quick shout out we had for them. Okay, so
Is that actually what it was?
no, purely a joke
Damn
going back
it.
to.
I can't trust
As a
a lie.
comedian, how does he not get
Sponsor?
it? As a
I don't
comedian.
know what to do with this.
All right.
Did you read DeSantis' book?
No.
Okay.
I could have lied, right? That's one of those things where all these hosts lie. Like,
Of
yes, I
course.
did.
Cover to cover. I wrote a paper on
He
it.
wrote a
yeah.
book?
Did you? Did you?
Did you read it?
Of course. Yeah. Did you watch CPAC? Did you watch CPAC and Trump's speech? Are you following any of that stuff? What's going on?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned CPAC. I emceed the main ballroom at CPAC for like hours at a time.
11 years ago, 12 years.
I did it 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
Or no, wait, I did it 3 years, then skipped a year because I got horrible food poisoning, did it another year. And I got called into the second floor at Fox, the brass, actually. Every time I would do CPAC, I'd get in trouble for something.
Oh, great.
And like one time I went out when Keith Olbermann was fired, I literally went out in full-on Keith Olbermann
Yes.
makeup as a DJ, giving around my business cards, and I was like
Did
introducing
you say Keith Olbermann?
Keith Olbermann.
Yeah.
I went out and I
He's
would
the
old
sweetest
Sports
guy.
Center
Isn't
guy?
he like
Yeah.
the super funny?
No, he's
cute,
super lit.
happy
No, he's
guy,
wild.
not
Yeah,
bitter at
yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Gentle.
Yes,
Sweetheart.
So, and then
He's
one time I
aged
got
well.
called in because they had a joke about someone said that I'd made a joke about raping Ashley Judd, which wasn't true at all. I made a comment about her saying that purchasing Apple products is akin to raping the earth.
Yeah.
But I would constantly have to get brought in, and they would say, "Well, you can't even comment on that because it's a third rail." And I would do a joke, so I was like, "You know what? I don't want to do it anymore." Oh, there you go. That's an old one, but I actually at CPAC went out as Keith Olbermann on the main stage selling Maybelline, and then I got in trouble with Maybelline.
Are you serious?
But when you get called up into the principal's office
Yeah.
at Fox on the second floor,
All the time.
Walk me through what happens there. Like, all right, Steven, this is it.
Yeah.
The fourth time this week.
Yes.
What did they say to you?
They would just. Here's the thing I will say too. There were some great people there, but they wouldn't ever tell me what I could not say. They would just encourage me with things that would do well with the audience. They would ask me to do things like put on a suit, right? Put on a tie. This is actually one. So as a comedian, right, for the Phyllis Diller quote, I didn't learn comedy when I learned how to write. I learned comedy when I learned how to edit.
Exactly.
Right? It's whittle it down, whittle it down, whittle it down. And so I would go and I had a debate segment with Alicia Menendez, Senator Bob Menendez's daughter, every Sunday for a long time. And as opposed to, the goal on cable news is to run the clock out, use up as much time saying, basically repeating the same point so that your opponent doesn't have time to speak. Coming from a stand-up background and coming from, at that point, even the only sports I've ever done are, combat sport, like jiu-jitsu and stuff, not at a high level. But again, in my head, it's basically comedy and something like jiu-jitsu or judo where you kind of, brevity is the soul of wit. I would be really, really short. So like one point, I think she said, oh, no, this was Alan Combs, I think, who was a super sweet guy. So like, Stephen, where did you go to school when I was making a point? Where did you go to school? Where's your degree? And rather than just going, oh, no, I just said, never made it out of grade school. What's your point?
Yeah.
And then gave him 2 minutes. No, I didn't mean, there are a lot of people who are smart who, maybe don't go to school. And then I get called and I go, well, you know what? The thing is when you do that, when you just answer in like 5-word sentences, it throws off the flow for other people. I'm like, that's the point.
That's the whole
I'm giving
point of
them
what I'm
enough,
doing.
giving them the ball because they've said nothing.
Yeah.
So that was one where I was sitting there going like, I'm just not going to run out the clock and just spew a bunch of stuff to sound, ultimately trying to sound articulate. I'd sound inarticulate. But that was one where I was like, this may not be the right,
But it doesn't sound like they're critiquing anything. They're kind of giving. It's almost like you've seen the movie Knocked Up when they're like what the girl's character comes in, they're like, we're not saying you need to lose weight, you just gotta
tighten it up.
There was one,
a little
they
bit.
paired me up with a
Right.
producer to do a comedy show that once was like, well, maybe there's something to this. And the guy was a super sweet guy, super old. I mean, like in his 80s. And he would like ask me the questions like, what do you think of Steve Allen? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, or Mike Douglas, And I remember basically kind of pitching what it is that we do now. And they wanted to have a monkey on the show, like on the set.
A real monkey.
The real monkey. Which I was like, I mean, all right, but like, I don't feel like you're hearing the rest. Like, what about this monkey? It'll be great. It's like, what if can we get a roller skating monkey? And I just remember being like, okay, we're on two different wavelengths, and that's why what we talked was like, all I'm saying is you need to have multiple wavelengths, not just one, because it's always one on our side of the spectrum, unfortunately, and it makes a lot of people out there feel disenchanted. I mean, do you have any idea how lonely I felt when you'd sit there and they go, well, conservatives don't want something like Change My Mind. I'm like, I think I do. Well, conservatives don't watch comedy. I'm like, I kind of think I do. Like, conservative doesn't work. Conservatives don't want books that aren't doomsday theories. I'm like, I kind of want like productive solutions and ways to move forward. And you go, well, I want to go out and create this show, but is there anyone out there like me? Like, is the only way to create content in this movement for a 70-plus-year-old demo that's straight-laced and red meat? And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's really scary when you say, okay, can it only be that? So there was a big step out in faith at one point when I just said, this is the story of the show. I took it, it was on radio for 3 hours. And I didn't want to do a radio show, but they said, hey, Bill Bennett takes off, he has a fill-in host on Fridays. So I said, it's a morning drive 6 to 9. And I said, well, okay, that's a prime slot on radio, and it's once a week for 3 hours. That's great. And the people who were syndicating the show said, yeah, we technically with our contract, we can do it. So I said, okay, I'm going to be based out of a station in Detroit, and don't pay me anything. Do a rev split. But and at this point, I didn't have a show, my own show. I said, but, let me own the rights to do podcasts, which they thought that's a fad, a lot of people. And then it started getting syndicated to more and more markets.
This is what year?
This would have been 2013, 2014. Something like that.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
That's post Fox. Where before that I had been a contributor to Fox News. I'd been on stand up and acting. But at this point I said, okay, I'm going to create the show that I want. And what happened, and the reason we ended up doing so many bizarre sketches, is AM radio has 16 minutes of ad space. But the problem is when you're streaming it on YouTube, which at that point no conservative was doing, like they don't want to hear about Ypsilanti Chevrolet. So I would just go, dating advice with Bill Cosby. We'd create a stinger in and out, and I'd be like, Michael Jackson Redux, and every single song was about like 6-year-old boys. Like, we're gonna do the first recipient of a penile implant. Like, and I would do 16 minutes of sketches times 3.
We just found all this stuff, by the way, in a Dropbox account we didn't realize we had. Over 600 old commercials on AM radio.
Wait, you've never launched this?
Never. No. We reused some of them. Like Perry Matheson was a character that we would do for fake. We got in trouble with the FCC, that and we would do fake warnings. We were like, we have at that point, like, we have a Lena Dunham warning, and it'd just be some fat joke, right?
Yeah.
But then they say, hey, like, this is a legal, like, these specific sounds, like, signifying, this is highly illegal.
What?
I was like, well, okay, I'll stop that. But then they realized it was only online. And they realized that at that point, people were listening to it on audio, like as a podcast. Like, so they don't, at this point, they don't think it's an emergency. So fine. Funny. But we were getting into trouble all the time. And at that point in time, I remember it was before we launched Mug Club. We were like, well, you know what? We only had like 12,000 people who would tune in because it was a radio once a week, 3 hours. Like, I don't know if this is going to work, but and then 12,000 became 50,000. And that became a couple 100,000. And that became into the millions. But we just found these. It was over 600 audio commercials that we only ever ran once.
Yeah.
A lot of them for maybe 12,000 people, aside from the radio audience.
Crazy.
Like 200 sketches and opens and like all these things. So we've just got all this content sitting there that we're like,
that's a lot of good stuff for Muck Club to participate.
Yeah,
if they want to see some of this stuff. You again, put the link below if you want to learn more about it. Muck Club
Forever.
louderwithcredit.com/Mug Club.
Yep,
Same way.
Put both links below for them to have. Robert, if you can do that as a reminder. Going
March
back to
20th.
So DeSantis Trump. Curious to know where you're at with this. Okay, DeSantis Trump You're seeing.
Why are you laughing?
It's just because this question right now is the third rail in the Republican Party.
Let's piss on it.
No, I'm fine with it.
So CPAC
it's just funny to me because
I don't
nobody.
think you get elected.
Numbers are what, 60% to 20%, right? CPAC, whatever. Then what were the numbers that you saw yesterday?
Yeah, wasn't even close. Trump,
up there.
Yeah, of course,
62%.
That's a CPAC thing.
It's a CPAC,
but that's within CPAC,
right?
correct.
That's only within CPAC, right?
Which is now called TPAC for Trump.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So where are you with this? Where are you with
Here's the thing. I like qualities from both candidates. I know this is going to sound like, but I'm certainly not a fence sitter. The truth is, I've never been in the business of endorsing candidates. Obviously, once it gets to a general, people know where I line up.
Yeah.
But I'll have people all the time asking me, like, hey, can you endorse this candidate? I'm like, I don't think you really know what it is that I do. As a matter of fact, even with guests, we'll have people tune out if we have a guest on because people want to hear kind of what we're saying about a topic unless it's a real needle mover.
Yeah.
We've had that with who you would.
What an interesting thing you just said.
Which I feel I hate because it's like I want pay
Yeah.
attention to this person. People are like, this is boring because we just came from me being waterboarded or having midget Jesus and Santa wrestle in Jello, whatever the hell it is. I would vote for any of these people in a national election, of course. Like I really hope it's just not a super bloody primary.
Yeah.
People ask me what I like about Donald Trump. I like the fact that he went off and did it on his own. I like the fact that he's an outsider. I don't like the fact that sometimes what it is with Donald Trump is even if he thinks he might be wrong, let's assume, and that's a big if, he would never admit it. 100%. So he has to dig in his heels. So something like with the vaccine, was an issue. And then really you saw with the audience when he was encouraging younger people, that was something that I had a real problem with. But I like him a lot. And I think he certainly has been probably the most effective president in my lifetime. Ron DeSantis, I like that he has really been consistent as a governor. He's done great things for Florida. Again, I don't live here, but everything that we've read and covered, he seems to be a man who's been remarkably consistent. What I don't like is, that he's not a super wealthy guy. And so you are always concerned if, to use the term, the establishment wants him because they feel like they can get their hooks in, right?
Right.
You always, I'm not saying he does, but that's the concern. So there are qualities that I like with both of them. I really hope it's not as childish, although from a
comedy standpoint,
oh my God,
it's gold.
Think about it, Steve. He's so
Run to Sanctimonious.
Yeah.
Run to Satan. Run up to the focus group. Get Frank Lunch with your Snickers and toupee. Let's see what's best.
Yeah.
But and see, we talked
Not
about
gonna
this.
call him Meatball.
We talked
I swear,
about it
I won't.
on a,
I'm not gonna call him Meatball.
on a past
matter what you say.
podcast. It's like Trump is, dude. Think about it. A lot of the stuff that he was telling everybody about the virus, and he was right.
Yeah.
About the Russia, about everything. So it's like
For
he
sure.
has
Yeah.
he has not like a chip on his shoulder, bro.
Yeah.
He has anger, and now I mean Ron is just in his way. But bro, we talked about this the last week when I was like, I would much rather me personally go back 3 years ago when just the only thing that was being hurt was people's feelings, not the country. Like,
Agreed,
tell
yeah.
me right now, shit isn't messed up right now.
Oh,
Come
yeah,
on.
of course.
Well,
I
but the
don't care
choice
how-
now is between Trump and Biden. That's that comparison.
Yeah.
Right now, what we're saying is like if you have Donald Trump in the office, or if you have Ron DeSantis, or maybe some third person that we don't really know about as much yet, you're going to have a much better situation than you do right now.
Exactly.
Right? So it's going to be fantastic. I think the issue with Trump or any other candidate, like we've got to get out of the Messiah worship kind of mentality in politics in general.
Yeah, there's no one
one
person
is
that can
coming
save you.
to save you because nobody is perfect. We're all human beings. We're all flawed. Donald Trump was incredibly effective.
Yes.
Highly effective. Hilarious as well. Like the stuff that he did was like what he was like saying I would hurt.
Boom.
Yeah.
Suck it.
Like how
Everyone's
did
like,
you
what?
come back from that? Yeah, exactly. When he's like,
Yeah.
I heard people say this, and he could just interject whatever he wanted to say about somebody, but couldn't
Were
actually
you
say
live
it
with
about
me
somebody.
on that debate stream? I don't think so at that point. I just remember sitting like, did he just say his dad killed JFK?
What the hell did he just say?
No.
About Ted Cruz. Yeah.
Well, Senator
But we
Ted
should
Cruz,
want the very best candidate possible to be the Republican nominee. That's what we should want. We don't need a bloodied candidate that's just been completely destroyed, and then here come the Democrats again with somebody who's going to kill the country. Look, we've got to have bigger goals than just getting our guy into office.
Yeah,
you got to be the right
You
person.
disagree with Trump when he says, I alone can fix it? Is that what you're saying? Because you're saying that you don't want to
I would disagree with anybody who says I alone can fix it.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody alone can fix this because Donald Trump was in the office for
This is Bob Builder,
really
right?
3 years, right? Yeah. No, but he was in there for 3 years. Then he had to deal with the pandemic. He was making a lot of positive change.
really
But
had 3
somebody
years.
else will have to
He really
carry
had
the
to, yeah.
torch. He's got a window of 8 years, and then the establishment will come roaring back, right? The machine will come back. You've got to be able to hand the torch off to the next guy to keep it going for the next 8 years. Not
You're
one
right.
person can do this.
If DeSantis does get elected, let's just go hypothetical here. Do you think that it would be a negative that he is quote unquote establishment?
I don't think he's
gonna need them?
establishment.
No.
My concern is that he could end up owing the establishment.
That's my point. Is
Yeah,
that like
because
he's
the
gonna
same
have
thing,
to?
the same
You
thing
said
that makes Donald
everyone
Trump
owns
impossible to
favors.
work with
sure, yeah.
is the same reason it makes him almost establishment proof to some degree. He had a lot of people in his cabinet who you would consider sort of swamp creatures, right? But as far as them being able to tell him and be like, go screw yourselves, I know better, right? He doesn't care.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying DeSantis is. It's a concern that he would be more prone to being influenced by it, which it could be completely ill-founded, and I'm not super concerned about. I'm just trying to, express concerns with both of them.
Yeah.
I don't like the quote, the old quote, whatever kills you makes you stronger.
Doesn't
I mean,
kill
what
you,
happens if
makes
you
you
end up being like a quad amputee? Like, no,
Yeah.
a quadriplegic.
You're
None of
not.
that is true. What if
You'll
your killer cells?
mentally stronger.
Aside from Trump, doesn't every candidate kind of have to owe somebody some money?
Yeah.
Like how many billionaire candidates have there been?
That's why I always find, yeah, exactly.
It was
That's what when
Bloomberg,
people
which
say,
I loved him spending a ton of his own money and losing.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Oh, remember he got mad because we had a guy dressed as Bloomberg come in where he was he was dancing.
Yeah,
remember he
weird.
did some Broadway thing?
Yeah.
We said it and then someone came and said, "Did somebody say Bloomberg?" And he came he started doing the worm and put down a cardboard box.
So funny.
And that guy is so humorless. His people got mad we really didn't like the depiction of him. I was like, yeah, you can go screw yourself with a wire brush. How about that?
As a comedian, you must have loved Trump's whole thing. Like, now Mike wants to bring a platform on stage, a stool.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, now he's asking for it. It's like, and he never asked
funny.
for it. He's like,
listen,
I'm hearing you.
And you nailed it.
So funny.
I miss the funny, the
Oh, I know. I do
It
miss
was a
that.
lot of fun.
because now it's just okay.
I would get on Twitter and be like, "What did he say today?"
Yeah, because now it's just okay. Biden fell down the stairs and he has no idea where he is or what he's saying. He's shaking hands there. That's funny, but Trump was just volatile and he would just say dude. The best is when he would go off teleprompter because when he's reading, and he's reading, but then when he's just when he's talking shit, he's going right at you.
Yeah. And I did a series actually, which I think is why Trump has never been on the show. I think it was offended. It was a Trump talk series in 2015.
Trump got offended? No way.
But it was
course,
Trump,
it was good.
and it was just a series of Trump on China, Trump on the border, and what invariably he would come back to say. And now other people have kind of noticed it. The theme was he would say, "Look, China's a cripple," and I would never say that. That's what so many people tell me. That's what they tell me. I would never say that. They say, "Oh, it's a hole of crap," and I say, "You stop saying that." They say, "That's what it is." I say, "Okay." Right, that's what he would do.
It's actually a great Trump.
Perfect. And we would do this back then. That was, and now everyone kind of talks about it. But it is true. When he wants that culpable deniability,
Oh,
just
beautiful.
people say that, and I just talk.
The same thing
Not
that
a
he's doing with
single person.
Meatball Run right now.
Yeah,
right.
Meatball.
I'll never say Meatball Run. People are saying Meatball Run,
Right.
but I would never do it.
I would never do it. Other people, I
And
can't
he's-
talk for other people, but
It's just like what Chris Rock just did with the Will Smith. He's like everybody called him a bitch. This person called him a bitch
Yeah,
about the
just
Will
named
Smith.
them all.
He's a bitch. He's like, I never called him a bitch. He said it like 10,000
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
Oh man.
but this was back, obviously when we had that was me and my
Is that
den.
you?
Yeah.
Me and my
That's
den.
you in your den.
Yeah, we have a better Trump thing now. So
But, I mean, that's hilarious. I mean, you just look
Can we play the
hilarious.
audio?
oh gosh,
Like, he's
I
like,
hate
how
watching.
old-
This is 2015, 20.
That's a while ago. Yeah.
level, I would never try and do anything that could
you've done
frankly
way better.
be
Well, my
seen
voice
as
was shot
not
because I just did
positive.
Bernie.
But
Oh,
you have
Bernie
people,
talks.
they're coming across the border, they're raping, they're killing, and frankly, truthfully, we have an obesity epidemic. We've got a problem, a
Yeah, it's kind
horrible
of Joan
problem.
Rivers-y back then. But no,
you killed it.
and
Now you're-
my Bernie was always Gilbert. Why'd you start talking about social enemy? Son of a bitch! What's up with you capital pieces of shit? And it was just people were like, why does he sound like Gilbert Gottfried? Like, because it's funnier. To
It's
me.
hilarious.
I just enjoy it more.
Yeah, it makes me laugh.
And now
Yeah,
I have polyps. Oh, that was a parody of the scene
Yeah.
from Misery.
Oh, that's so.
his post hosting this program on Thursday.
Are those your feet?
I will
No.
be taking
I don't know whose
his
feet.
place
Whose
I don't
feet
either.
are
as
those?
a
I don't know.
temporary replacement.
That's just, you don't even, why did that show up? That's like
Yeah, that's
one that was
random.
buried in the show.
you
That's
gotta-
random.
But we have some that have millions of plays where we, because our audience, no one was paying attention to Bernie Sanders. This is a good example when we talk about sort of the establishment, people in conservative media. They're all talking about Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton. And I remember saying, look, Hillary Clinton's a coronation. Bernie Sanders is the movement candidate.
Yeah.
And we would actually see a lot of people. We have we have so much data, right? When you have billions and billions of plays across, not only just on YouTube, but then billions on all these other platforms, you can sort of cross-reference and go, okay, we can actually see a significant amount of Bernie Sanders people would come over to Donald Trump just because of the anti-establishment sentiment. Sort of Russell Brand a little bit, right? Where he was a self-avowed socialist, and I don't know what how he would describe himself now, but he sees the threat of big tech. Like he certainly would be one of those guys who would have been a Bernie supporter, who now sees the problem. Whereas this was always our audience.
Same with Rogan, by the way.
Big time.
Well, but that's going back to a point you made earlier. That's what Russell said. That's why Rumble exists. I mean, think about you were talking about the people that are on Rumble right now. Ask yourself why. What did Rumble set out to do that was different? They said, look, we want people to actually be able to speak freely on this platform, right? And they're creating something that's a little bit different over there. And he came out and said the reason they exist is because YouTube had started to kind of give everybody you couldn't say anything. You basically were just choked out if you were anything close to being conservative, right? And so these guys have come on and said, okay, well, we're going to let everybody come over here. The first people to jump ship are going to be the conservatives, but watch, if those guys are successful, they will continue to get more people. Like you said, they have to diversify, right? Everybody starts out with cat videos first.
Yes.
All right, Patrick?
Yeah.
We can't all start out.
right.
It can't always be gold.
Isn't
right?
that telling, though?
You're
It's-
right.
All it is, it's open to everyone.
Yeah.
Right? It's open to everyone.
And that's a
liberals
problem.
say, I won't do that. I want it closed to half.
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing. You think Rumble is saying you can't come here if you're liberal? Of course not.
Well, but they've got a guy like Russell Brand, and they've got a guy like
yeah.
Joe Rogan saying it. So the movement that we were talking about earlier, like you're starting to see this tipping point. Maybe it was your question.
You know what he's
are
gotta do?
starting to see people that are going there saying, "Hey, you're right."
Yeah, he's investing a lot of money into different people. By the
Yeah,
way,
he is.
what are you noticing the AdSense on the way their platform is Rumble against YouTube, comparing the two?
I don't know because I haven't. It would be unfair for me to say because I've been demonetized for so long on YouTube, so I don't really know what the industry is like there.
Yeah.
Not only am I not allowed to be monetized on YouTube, I'm not allowed to run ads through AdSense. So to give you an
Other
idea,
people can run the exact same
the
ad.
exact same ad. Like in other
You
words,
can.
We've done
We can.
A/B testing on this.
We've done A/B testing,
Yeah.
where we try and run an ad. Like let's just say it's a clip,
Yeah.
right, where you run it as a pre-roll or
Yeah.
something. Say no, absolutely not. And then we've had other people with AdSense accounts who run it and it gets accepted.
Yeah.
So it's not content based. It's us based.
Yeah.
Peak to peak. If you were to say, when I used to get 1 million views, I would make $700-800 on YouTube. I'm just making some number up. When I get 1 million views on Rumble, I make XYZ. Have you put those two together? You're a numbers guy. I'm assuming you've done that to see how they match up.
Well,
advertising.
So that would be more of a Gerald question again, because the rates changed so dramatically that
Right.
YouTube at peak was very different. Like, I think I've been a partner since 2008, and I was even around with the MCNs, like I don't know if you remember, like Makers and Studio
Of
71
course,
stuff
yeah,
like
of
that.
course.
So the rates would change dramatically. So it's almost like you don't really have a comparison.
Yeah.
I will say the numbers have been, I think, actually better on a pound for pound basis, but we often don't really seek to monetize the videos because we'd rather people feel like they don't have to watch that and get the show and subscribe.
So you don't even monetize on Rumble right now. You're not turning it on.
I think it's on for some of them, but
think
we
it
don't
is
spend.
for some,
It's
yeah.
such a small
It's
portion
just
of our
outside
revenue.
of our model, right? That's not really how our model works.
We forewent a couple $1 million a year from YouTube when we said, okay, keep it if you want to demonetize us, because it was, the carrot was dangled, or just don't talk about these things. We said, nope, keep us demonetized, just don't remove our channel, and we'll find a way.
Naive question. If
Yeah.
you're not making any money on YouTube and Rumble isn't a moneymaker for you,
Yeah.
is it all the Mug Club?
All
all
and
of it?
sponsors.
Yeah.
And because the viewership is so large that one sponsorship spot is worth, 4 or 5 on another show.
Yeah.
So
KY is one of the.
They're knocking down.
No,
the
we
4%.
actually Astroglide. It's a non-compete.
So Steven, people in the Mud Club, where are they, like on March 20th?
Yeah.
Correct. That you guys are coming back on. Where you guys are launching on on your website mainly
So
for the
this is
members?
it's
That's what I
not
wanna know.
entirely finalized, but here's the
Yeah.
thing: we are launching at louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub. We're still finalizing exactly who is going to do the back end. We're pretty close.
Got you.
But regardless, people will be able to go there, watch the free show,
Yeah.
like we always have, and then continue to watch the premium show and the
Got
additional
you.
content.
It's on the
Right,
website,
yeah.
right?
On the
Oh,
website,
beautiful.
$89, and
for the whole year.
yeah, and
Perfect.
actually, and if you are on mugclubforever.com where you subscribe, we're gonna send you a code where you actually get a good few extra free months.
Got you.
honor
Because
system.
of the situation.
Yeah, because
that's-
and that's something too. Again, because it's like nothing breaks my heart more than people saying, "Hey, I didn't get a mug," or "Hey, I subscribed at this point in time." When it's like, at some point, right? You end a contract. At some point, you have to. You're like, but I hate that you paid and you only got half a year. But since we can't access their personal information, like we can't know. So it's like you have to reach out to us, and we'll send you this code. It'll largely be on our system where we do right by you and give you some extra,
Great.
few months for
That's
free.
fantastic.
Well, that's when I
great.
was wishing that I hadn't taken the CEO job, was when we were getting to the end of the contract and we had no idea who our subscribers were. Right. And we've talked about this, and it was just like, okay, how do we go and build this? We have no way of getting in touch with you guys. We have, like a master email list, but that's every single person who's ever signed up for the newsletter through the website or through.
That number's got to be in the million.
It's a lot of people, right? But that's the thing; it's not specific. And so if you send it, maybe it goes to junk mail because you're sending ads to them potentially in previous partnerships. And it's like, man, that's just a feeling of like we've got to be able to capture these people. And so that's where Mug Club.
So you brought up, I don't know if that was going out to the audience, but that's the number of
Wow,
the 3 month
that's
pre-demonetization, right? We had
Can you
gained
zoom in a little bit?
430,000.
Zoom in a little bit. Go ahead.
So 3 months,
Yep.
430,000 was that average from February pre-demonetization, and that's with just the main channel. That
Yeah,
doesn't include
3-month
Crowder Bits. About 62 million plays, which is what we're getting an average in a month between 50 and 70 million. And of course, that number went down because you don't get browse or search.
50 to 70 million views per month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
But an average of over 100,000 new subscribers every month.
Every month.
And then if you go to demonetization, so even when we were demonetized, all right, we still had about 58 million. So the numbers didn't quite take because it took a while to get us out of the browse and search. 46,000. So almost to the letter, a tenth. Wow. Every single time they remonetize us again, accidentally, someone got fired.
Wait. This is in 90 days. You got how many subs?
46,000
versus 430.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Immediately. And then we have another.
Did your show stop? Did you change any of the schedule?
No, that's the thing.
Nothing.
Basically, they just turn you off or turn you on.
Turn you off. And then we have another one.
So they're just doing
after that, we're again remonetized, right? And then this was so we're remonetized for 2 months.
213.
Or 3 months there. So 213, and again, it took a little while to get, but again, 62 million plays, and then demonetized again, and it went down to 23,000.
And this is just YouTube.
This is just YouTube.
Now, you've seen what's happened, obviously, with someone like Andrew Tate, right? Where you see Meta steps in, and then Google, YouTube, bing, 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 bing.
Oh, we got that one.
Then it's Uber. So
is Uber account?
Other
His
than
Uber got canceled.
all that Airbnb, the whole
We've
deal.
been banned from Airbnb.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Well, there's a reason.
Do you want to know the reason?
It's a hilarious reason, by the way.
I want to know.
The funniest thing
Because
we've
this is your
done.
show.
wanna
I feel like, okay.
No, we wanna
So
hear
do you remember in Seattle, remember Chaz?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Okay, Chop.
Yeah, you
Chop.
talked about that on one of the shows. I remember that.
So what happened is, remember, and do you remember Raz Simone was like he was like the warlord that was
Warlord
handing out
of the place.
AR-15s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Handing guns.
He was the guy.
Yeah, he was the
Okay, I
leader.
remember
But
him.
then
Yeah.
we did some research on him, and we found out that Raz Simone actually had an Airbnb and like got all these grants from the government. So what we did was we sent our producers down to Chaz. We rented out his Airbnb and declared it New Chaz.
Oh my God.
And spray painted New Chaz and all this stuff.
You
and,
didn't do
And we
that.
actually handed out.
for sure.
We actually handed out party flyers.
His ice maker didn't
Come
work,
join New
so.
Chaz.
Oh my
Because we knew,
God.
and he found it. And actually, our guys got chased out. So this whole live stream was
my
come to
God.
New Chaz, which was his Airbnb. And then the Socialist Gun
Go
Club.
towards the beginning, you'll see it, because they had to leave.
Yeah, the Socialist Gun Club showed up and chased them out with
There you
guns
go.
there in Chaz.
Oh my
Well, and
God.
he found it. So mid-show, he actually tweeted us, I think is how we found it. Maybe it was on Instagram, where he's like, you guys are big funny. You know?
Yeah, he actually had a good sense of humor about it, but then he got us banned from Airbnb.
Yes.
Oh shit.
So this is Raz Simone's Airbnb.
Yeah, Raz Simone.
That is
And so you can see why they wouldn't want us on there.
Yeah,
And,
no,
Yeah.
you know.
we didn't actually spray paint it, by the way. We just did a really good Photoshop.
Great.
And we know because
Oh,
he
yeah.
showed up, he was like, dude, he's like, guys, don't worry, it was Photoshop, it was
Yeah,
fake, but
yeah.
all right, that was good. Because the whole idea was it's really easy to say, this is our autonomous zone
Yeah.
when you're vandalizing other people's crap. So we just
Exactly.
said, let's go to your
Go to
Airbnb.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
And so we were permanently
So
banned
funny.
from that. I think we had a couple accounts banned from Uber.
Anything else? I know you're obviously very against big tech. Anything with Meta, Instagram, TikTok? Snap,
Well, yeah,
any of
we've been
that?
suspended. So that's how I met my
long
half
time.
Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond, was that
He's only half Asian.
he's only half
Okay,
100%.
gotcha.
That's how you know he's
If
good.
he's half Jew, then he's killing it.
Yeah, exactly. You
Done.
get the two. It's like the yin yang of fantastic.
Buy one,
lawyer.
get one.
But he met me through, was it Engadget or Gizmodo? I always get it wrong.
I think it's Gizmodo.
So it was like this article that went out, and we were doing millions and millions of reads on the website. Just loudwithcutter.com was like it's just a news site as well. And what happened is all of a sudden it just got throttled, and we just couldn't generate any type of traffic anymore. And we even A/B tested it on other pages and noticed, if we run it on someone else's page, it does well. We run it on our page, it doesn't get any clicks. And so then an article was released from Gizmodo or Engadget. What did I say? I don't know.
Gizmodo.
And it was like
it sounds better.
it was the code baked in where there was a leak from an insider saying like, yeah, it was the Ted Cruz for president, the Chris Kyle Foundation, Breitbart, and me. One of these things is not like the other, right? But because pound for pound, it was all organic traffic. We didn't have nearly the budget. And so then I call my friend, who was he was a good friend of mine, and he was a Harvard law grad. He's like, that's not really the law I do, but here's this guy who might. This guy named Bill Richmond, a half Asian lawyer. And then I talk with him, and he thinks like, yeah, this is another conservative, right? There are these wannabe martyrs who are like, I'm being suspended or whatever it is. It's like, well, that's because you threatened to kill someone's dog, whatever.
Yeah.
Can't do
Not all of them, I'm saying sometimes. So he goes, okay, I'll call you. And then he calls me back. He goes, wow. Yeah, it actually looked like there's code in there, and there's actually quotes from the insider, and there were screenshots of them removing us from organic trending. So we couldn't trend on Facebook, couldn't trend on Instagram, YouTube. We've run into it, and keep in mind, nothing we do is that crazy. Sure, some of the jokes are crazy, but it's
funny,
It's
though.
PG-13.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really is for like you're talking about guys who are pro Second Amendment, pro First Amendment. Pro-life, conservative Christians who maybe every now and then the joke ruffles some feathers a little bit too much. But we've had run-ins with all of them. That's why you're talking about millions of dollars just in legal fees because we had to bake it into our business model.
But I think if you're not pushing that envelope, like if just scratching and trying to put, then it's not fun. Like, you know what I mean? It's just boring.
That's part of the fun of comedy.
And not doing it just to be vulgar or just be like, oh, look what they're doing. I think the funniest ones are when you're like, oh shit, where it's funny and you make them think and you're like, oh shit, he's kind of right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's mostly what we're doing is poking fun at these things that are just so patently absurd. And we're like, this can't be real life. And so we'll just kind of lean into it. And they're like, well, yeah, it is real life. And so now you
better chill
can't get
out.
any traffic to your website.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah,
whoa.
let me tell you what we just did, which is kind of interesting. We had we're recruiting comedians right now. So about 3 months ago, we made an ad for comedians to apply. So we got 120 people that applied. That went down to from 120
a bunch of them are a bunch of open micers or people.
Steve, I'm not even joking, bro.
I was on the list. I'm sorry.
So, and mind you,
Devil dipping.
I have to cut you off. We wanted, resume this and videos. One guy's like literally in his underwear naked with a gun, and he just goes, "Fuck with me, like I'm funny." And I'm like, "What do you talk?" Like, so I had a bunch of crap, but we did get 120.
Well, obviously, he got a 5-year contract with
exactly.
at the top.
Yeah,
For different
anyway,
reasons.
so these guys, it came and so it went from 120 to 50 to 11 people were here this week, and they're trying out for a couple of days. They were here creating.
We're shooting
content.
sketches and.
But by the way, these
And
are
that's
guys
tough too,
that's
'cause
got.
not all stand-ups are great sketch and vice versa.
They can't act. Exactly.
So they're at our comedy club in our cigar lounge. So they're kind of working together and they're doing their own
cigar
thing.
lounge.
Oh, yeah,
you'll see it here in a
you
minute.
guys will see it after this.
So they're doing what they're doing. I'm watching these guys. I'm like, okay, I want to go talk to them. 11:30, I'm sitting there talking to these guys. So tell me, what are you thinking about? He's, this is like one of the best times ever to make fun of the president that we have. Biden's an easy one, but no one's doing it. We like to do this. Trump was good for comedy. Biden's good for comedy, but people are afraid to touch it. And you see what's going on with right now. And, so I think there's a very major need for entertainment in that side. Sometimes the right gets criticism for not being good comedians. They're not funny. You're not good at making comedy. It's too, or even movies. Hey, do we need to watch another Fireproof where the acting is like, can you really make some movies?
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw Jesus Revolution was number 3 movie in the country, if you were following it or not.
Yeah.
So are you going to be making the millions? There's a massive, massive opportunity. Massive opportunity today.
Well, it's also because they don't understand it. So, like, when I talk about comedy, and again, nothing is like official, but people can see, for example, I'm not letting the cat out of the bag. On my show, it's like, okay, Jim Brewer, Nick DiPaolo, Brian, like, it's a murder, Jim Norton, right? You have Dave Landau. It's a murderer's row of people that we have all the time where they come on and they'll often say, like, oh, this feels like filling that gap that was, with Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn. I mean, even we've had comedians who we disagree with entirely on the show on a regular basis. It really is like it's tough because the problem is you'll get a lot of people who say, "Hey, I'm conservative, so my friends say I'm funny." That's very different from to me, Nick DiPaolo is the funniest stand-up who's ever lived, just in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
So when I sat down with him. And he is exactly what you expect. Like, he was wearing, you wear these sometimes, like the kind of plaid pattern suit. And my dad dresses like you. He's a snappy dresser. He was actually at Dean Witter and E.F. Hutton in finance. Didn't even graduate college. He just tested off the charts, got a corner office, kind of like bullshitted his way in.
Wow.
Not lying, just like, yeah, I can do this.
When's his birthday?
60.
No, what month?
1960.
Oh,
No, what month?
Hold on a second. February. Yeah. February. No. Sorry, April. My mom's February. I'm sorry, Mom.
Sorry, Mom.
It's February.
Mom.
I'm sorry.
Dad. Sorry, Dad.
I'm sorry.
Should we be apologizing to Nick? Forget about your mom.
So Nick walks in, and my dad's wearing like a soft kind of and he doesn't look down from his phone. And my dad goes, "Hey, because he was a booker for the show. We used to have a booker from these big shows at NBC, and they're like, no one will do your show. They're terrified back in the day because it was controversial, but not the numbers. So my dad goes, "Hey, my son just can't you're his favorite comedian ever. I'm so glad to have you here." And all he does, he looks up from his phone. Can I swear? One time,
of course.
Okay. Yeah, it's Nick. There's no way to do Nick DiPaolo without it. And he just looks up. He goes, "The fuck do you look like the mayor of Amity?" That's the first thing he said. And my dad is just laughing his ass off because but he's actually a super, I don't want to say sweet guy, but like a good guy who you can work with and trust. But he's so funny. Another Senseless Killing is my favorite album. But like Jim Brewer, is unbelievable, who we've had in the show.
What does he do right now? What does he do right now?
Stand up.
Yeah, he does a show too online. Yeah, he does a show online, but he's one of the best. Like, when people talk about boxing, they say if you want to teach someone how to box properly, you show them Joe Louis, right?
Exactly.
Because it's the basics. It's done right. There's no wasted movement. If you want someone to learn how to do stand-up, I always show them Nick DiPaolo.
Wow. And I would say him and Patrice O'Neal, because
of course,
was
and they were in that
same realm.
Oh, they had a show together on. Was it the Shorties watching Shorties?
Yeah. That was dope. They were like really close.
But before we wrap up, you said something because getting a text message here. Food is ready. They're cooking. They're waiting for us to go there, which is kind of. But did you see Jon Stewart today with the whole, not today, 3 days ago, the
I
Second
did.
Amendment thing?
Yeah.
But I have my thoughts on this. What was your reaction on the way he handled it? It's like 8 minutes.
Here's the thing: Jon Stewart is really good.
Yeah.
And for example, like I can look at this objectively. When Jon Stewart was on with back then it was Tucker and was it Chris
Crossfire?
the guy-
Yes.
Crossfire,
Yeah.
right? And then he was on with Bill O'Reilly. Look, I agree with obviously Tucker more. I would agree with Bill O'Reilly more. It was a masterclass. I remember Jon Stewart answering when Bill O'Reilly says, like, oh, okay, but Stewart, you do this and you say, and people do trust you as news. And he said, that may be, but I don't know if you know, the lead into our show is puppets making crank calls.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just completely disarms him. It's like a masterclass. But in this, here's the problem. He's brilliant. And this is the beauty of someone who's really adept with comedy. He sells to the audience that he knows what he's talking about. I watch it right away and go, bing, 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 because I've been off air. It's like I've been champing at the bit. Just like, oh my God. Where he quotes this, like, what is the leading cause of death with kids? It's not drag shows. We've done a whole segment on that. You know that number is completely fake, right? Where they said the leading cause of death with kids is firearms. That includes kids 19 years old. Yeah. And when you eliminate that stat of 16 to 19, it's not even close. When you eliminate the stat of 14 to 19, and it's all inter-gang related, when people say, hey, this is the leading cause of children, you're right as a parent, and this is the disservice the media does. As a parent, you want to know, is there a danger in my bathtub? Should I not throw a toaster in there when my twins are, learning how to play with the rubber duck? That's probably a bad idea. Not going, okay, hold on a second. How do we save kids? Don't join a gang at 17 years old in Memphis. That's the stat that he throws out, but he's so smooth and collected and so much experience in dealing with adversity. And I don't know how he edits it, to be fair.
No, and I could see editing, though, Steve. I could see it cutting because the guy right about to speak.
I don't know, who's the guy?
He's a congressman in Oklahoma.
Come on.
This guy was. You're talking about this is a heavyweight versus a lightweight right here.
Exactly. When I saw the answers, then he just kind of fumbled through his response. I was just like, gosh, there's like 5 things that you can say in response to this. Like, do you hate women, Jon Stewart? Because people use their gun to defend themselves over 1 million times a year, and most of those are probably going to be women that need to be able to have a force equalizer. Do you hate women? Why do you hate women?
Right.
Like, there's an easy way to say this isn't as simple as you're making it seem.
Yeah.
I just had an argument. That's why we were slightly late with a Canadian at the hotel pool. I was like, Joe, like, this is, you've met me off air.
He's like, hey, we're going to be late.
People say, what is it? Like, I'm this way. I'm a little more quiet sometimes off air because I just kind of get tired.
Up with the Canadian.
But I was with the Canadian. He was sitting there talking. He was bitching about all these stops that he had to make and checkpoints where they would stop you on the road because he was going out to Moncton and or maybe he was going to somewhere. I don't know if he was going to PEI or Moncton, New Brunswick, and he was talking about this. I'm thinking, oh, this is a guy who gets it, right? Like Johnny Boy, who's out there, a friend of mine I've known him since I was 12 in Canada. And then all of a sudden I realized he starts talking about Parkland and how America hasn't done anything. And I said, well, hold on a second. What should they do? And he goes, well, in Canada, if you had our laws, I said, you just had a man go to prison for 10 to 20 to life for defending his house when 2 men broke into his house with guns. One was roughing up his wife, likely going to rape her, and he shot this home intruder, and he's the one who's doing time. And the Prime Minister came out and said, you do not have Prime Minister blackface, by the way. I did it like 15 times.
I love it.
He
Yeah,
came over.
Scumbag.
We've done blackface many times on the show as Justin Trudeau. It's the ongoing sketch. He said, I don't know about that. I said, yes, you know about that. Your prime minister said you don't have the right. You do not have the right to defend yourself with a firearm. That, to me, like Gandhi said, is a far greater act of evil in robbing a nation of arms. I said, by the way, you also don't have freedom of speech in Canada. I went through my friend Mike Ward, who had to go all the way up to a Supreme Court for a joke and a human rights tribunal. It is a subjugated, conquered people in Canada, and they don't even know it. And that's the rest of the world outside of the United States. And they don't even know. They just accept it wholesale. So anyways, your question, I wanted to hear what you had to say about Jon Stewart. But I think he's brilliant, but I don't like what he did here was dishonest. But very clever.
But here's the part, though. I mean, okay, say John's Booker team. Let's go to who John's Bookers are. Booker, that they book. Guests.
People have hooves.
You mean to tell me you didn't have 90 other people to get on there that are bigger heavyweights than bringing him on?
Of course they do.
I don't understand.
Well,
you mean to tell me you couldn't have brought in a Ben? You couldn't have brought in how many
president of the NRA?
That's by design.
How many?
That's by design.
Well, but that to me, that because let me tell you, I watch it. It's got 11-something million views. Can you? How many views has the show?
11.2.
No, I'm sorry. It's now at 12.5 million views. What is the number you see there? Do you see a number?
That's just Twitter.
No, that's not the right number. It's got 11.5 million views.
Yeah.
This thing crushed it. It went viral. There's no question about it.
With a tailwind, by the way, from YouTube and big tech. That's a problem.
But if you watched it, he handled himself so well. He says, so more guns equals more safety, right? Then why is the number going up? Well, you can't really. And the guy tried to make the argument of, he was not a good debater to represent this argument.
He leaned in and he goes, when will it be?
When? Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But nobody was there. $1 billion guns.
Well, exactly. It's like how many? It's like nobody was prepared to counter and say, well, actually, the stats that you're quoting aren't accurate. We've talked about that, right?
Yeah.
The take out suicides, take out gang violence, and you're looking at very low numbers, relatively speaking. Yeah. He wasn't ready with any of that stuff, and of course, this guy was picked.
Well, he's a paper tiger. I had to run in. So one of my, who by the way, I'm still friends with, a manager had to drop me back then. I don't want to say his name because unfortunately he has to be in the closet. But he was a guy who he was conservative, and he had Jon Stewart's people reach out to him and say, "Do you have anyone else out there like this Stephen Crabbe? But we don't do conservative pundits. But do you have someone like him?" In other words, they were saying, we like that he's young, because they'd see me from comedy and maybe a reel was sent. They said, we like all these things, but we don't do conservatives. So if you have anyone like him who doesn't believe as he believes, we'd love to have them.
Wow.
And then when I released that, that was like a long time ago, talked about it. Of course, they called my manager. I just talked about it. They called my manager like, this guy can't be talking about what we're doing behind the scenes. We're never going to have any of your clients again. Whatever. And I just remember kind of speaking about it off the cuff, but that happened. Like, they keep people away by design.
Stephen, what's the difference to you between Jon Stewart and Bill Maher?
Ooh, not much. And here's the thing. Bill Maher now, I think, is going to I don't know. And I would always say I never question motivation. But, I did go through a pre-screen with Bill Maher's person. And I'm not saying that, I would be the smartest person on the panel. Far from it. But certainly if you look at some of the people who were on there, I definitely would hold my own. And I remember the pre-screen process with Bill Maher. She said, what do you want to talk about? And I was like, because I'm thinking Bill Maher's, a comedian, by that he often throws up his hands, like, okay, and laugh. But I remember saying I did just read the hashtag Oscars So White and just go to see the new live action Beauty and the Beast film where in 1740s France I saw Mary J. Blige be royalty fold into a bookcase. So I don't know at what point, we start saying, hey, we're giving some roles that don't even make sense. Yeah. She goes, so with everything's going on, you want to talk about Disney? I said, no. I think when you're talking about Oscars So White and in 1740 slavery, right, when in that era they would have been slaves, now making black, which of course, by the way, just to be clear, slavery bad, okay, all right, slavery bad, not supporting, but I was saying it's hilarious that at that point in time, it's so historically inaccurate. You're creating roles for black actors at that point that would never even be possible. And she said, well, what do you think about Russia? Russiagate. Oh. And I said, what do you mean? She said, what? I said, what was there? And I said this, and I said, is there something new? Yeah. She said, because, do you mean it was I don't know, I haven't checked the news in the last 12 hours, but so has there been something that's broken, evidence?
Late breaking?
She goes, no. She goes, no, but the whole situation. I said, well, okay, do you want to talk about Fusion GPS? Do you want to talk about the Steele dossier? Because all of this is something that was basically paid Oppo research, and we know is completely fabricated and it's bullshit. I said, so you condemn me for talking about a cultural issue at large that we know is a sham, but you want to discuss a sham? And then when I hear Bill Maher going out saying, I told him to stop talking about Russia, it's like, that's what your booker was doing.
Yeah.
So I hope that his transition is real. I really do. I think he's probably been beaten up by the left a little bit. But then he comes out and still says that Biden's doing a great job and he's going to vote for Biden. I'm going, well, how do you come to that conclusion? I don't understand the disconnect.
Yeah.
Unless you have to say it.
Well, it's the same thing with Jon Stewart when he's like, it's the Wuhan Institute, right? Virology for the COVID. It's like, yes, of course. These are the same people that you trust, and now you say you still trust. Why? Why do you still trust them?
Yeah, I think you're right. They had those little moments where God, the real soul wants to come up, but then like you said, they're owned by somebody, bro.
They're surrounded by people
100%
who wouldn't allow them to say certain things.
Oh, for sure.
And he is at one point he took a pot shot at me and just some random podcaster or something. I was like, okay, I don't care. But he's done jokes from our show. My mom.
Bill Maher has
verbatim.
Ooh. Oh wow,
verbatim. And we know that it's been on his radar because his booker reached out. And so it's just this happens a lot. And I don't mean sort of veering into the same topics. I would love to see him come up. But when he says, hey, look, this is a problem with the ultra woke, and okay, fine. Then he says, Joe Biden's done a really good job as president, and I would vote for him. Is that really a net benefit? Because you've gotten people to listen to you, and then you've taken them to the end game of this is what you should do politically. And I go, oh, God. So I don't know. But the Jon Stewart thing, the guy is really funny.
Yeah, very good.
He's very talented, and that can trick people into him sounding like he's right. A lot of what he said there was factually inaccurate, which tells me he doesn't even do basic research because it just takes one link deeper into the study.
Yeah. Either that's a good cut, either that is a terrible opposition representing Second Amendment, or he just did a masterclass on asking questions to put the pressure on the guest, and there's an art in doing that as well.
Yeah,
and he's very good at doing that part. So. Anyways, yeah, I was just curious to know what you were going to say about Bill Maher versus Jon Stewart. Obviously, the last 2 years, you've seen what's been happening with Bill Maher. Bill Maher's now like, conservatives are like, I mean, Bill Maher, and he's doing such a great job, and he's doing this, he's doing that.
That's because they're clamoring, right? Think about that for a second. They're going, oh, Bill Maher says something even remotely conservative, like someone on the entertainment side, because they're used to nothing but talking points.
Well, it's also very easy of him to say, you know, I haven't changed, they've changed. That's his resounding narrative, which is actually true.
No, I think it's complete horseshit.
You believe?
I think it's complete horseshit. Because again, you're talking about in 2004, or when it was 2006, right? Being banned. I remember being banned from I think it was Marianopolis or it was Concordia, like getting into trouble, getting booed, having to be like escorted out of universities, having shows canceled because of things that were politically incorrect back then. And at that point in time, all the comedians said, this is just, you're just making a big deal. Up until not too long ago, Bill Maher was hitting those same talking points. So I do think that they left. I don't think the left left them. I do think that both the right have become more left and the left has become increasingly left. But if you look at the things that Bill Maher espoused not too long ago, it was left. It was left. It was significantly left from everything from, like, I think now, unfortunately, you have people revisiting the gay marriage topic. You know why? Because you have people going, hold on a second. We can't put kids on puberty blockers. Like, that's a bridge too far. But they're going, so everyone has a line. Now people have realized everyone has a line. And they're going, did the line have to be back there? I mean, I can't tell you how many people who used to be liberal have said, you know what, I just don't know where we stop this. And now kids are being taken away from their parents if they're not on puberty blockers. Sure. And I remember with Dave Rubin, you know, who's a friend, and he does my show, and I'd done a show quite a few times, and he was very surprised back in the day where he would say, you know, like, I didn't leave the left left me, Stephen, you know, that kind of thing. And he said, like, I know, like, you're more libertarian, like, you support same-sex marriage. I said, no, I don't. He was surprised because when I see him, I give him a big hug. You know, when I see him, I have a lot of love for the guy. And I think a lot of people think that if you have an issue politically with the blurring of gender lines, it means you hate people. And I said, no, here's the deal. And I don't think it's a fair comparison to interracial marriage because I think that fundamentally black and white people as parents are interchangeable if they want to be present in their children's lives. In other words, I do not think that a black woman is incapable of providing to a child whom she loves what a white woman can as a mother. I said, but I don't think that two dads can provide what a mother and a father can, and I don't think that two moms can provide what a mother and a father can. I don't think that men and women are interchangeable as parents, as we could argue people of different races. And I think you're not going to like where this ends up, because to say they're interchangeable is to say that you know, the gender issue, that the gender lines don't exist, and that's not a gay thing. That's going into whole new territory. And we're talking about that maybe in 2016, 2015, 2017.
With Rubin?
With Rubin. Yeah. He was surprised, and he was surprised, but he said, okay. And I said, now look, and you have to understand why marriage laws exist. I wish the government wasn't in the marriage business at all. But the reason why was because before federal government, before state government, before they wanted self-governance, and they realized a nuclear family was the most important way to do that. That's why you have tax incentives. That's why you have the government recognizing mom and dad. And that's not the same with two dads, two moms. I think you should have civil unions, all of the same rights. But I said this is a slippery slope, and I think that saying men and women are fundamentally interchangeable will tug at that fabric of society. And I don't know who's pushing for that when we should all be agreeing on the civil union.
Where do those conversations end with Rubin? Like when
really
you do the hug and everything goes on?
He's a super sweet guy. Like, you're not going to find a guy like sweeter than Dave Rubin.
Yeah, he's awesome.
But I think they're surprised because they think you have to be like a Westboro Baptist Church person if you go, well, there are issues with the same-sex marriage thing.
And the beauty is that you can have your opinion. That's what people always think, like, he's right. No, you could have your opinion. You have your opinion. Right. You stick by it. That's what it is.
Did you and Cenk ever do anything together or no?
Oh, God. Well, I showed up. Technically. I crashed on the South by Southwest panel of Cenk Uygur as Cenk Uygur.
Yeah.
So I showed up and I was like, "You're not the real. I'm the real Cenk Uygur." And and the reason I did this impression was because they would pick on me when I was this tiny YouTube channel.
Right.
And then once I grew big enough, I was like, "Well, let's do a debate," you know, because they would pick on me. They said no, and they all of a sudden I was like Voldemort. They wouldn't acknowledge my name. So I started. What I would do is I would do these Young Turks parodies where I would do impressions of them. And then I would actually like run them back then as ads before Young Turks videos. And they got really pissed.
He's walking
you as him?
Yeah, it's the most embarrassed I've ever been in my life, but I just felt like I had to do it.
Is that him right there?
That's
required.
it. Yeah. And
you gained a ton of weight for the, or you put a pillow in your stomach?
So, I mean, we look eerily similar, don't we?
That is so uncomfortable. Look how uncomfortable he is.
Is that...
Okay, so this is not a friend of mine.
What he does, okay?
This is what he does.
You know that bullshit.
He basically what he does makes money. Is he makes money by he watch, right? Like that's the whole he's rock. Oh, you rock my
Wow. This is when 2017.
I don't know.
Pause it.
I love that you crashed him.
It's a total thing. But again, he picked on me, and I was
Good
like,
for you,
let's
bro.
do
By the way,
this.
they had it in the wrong place, so we had him in the wrong.
I went to the
hotel.
wrong Marriott.
He's dressed in full check
Oh,
outfit.
my
He
God.
comes out, and there's like no ballroom B or
And
whatever
I think
it
I
was.
walked past Bill Nye.
Yeah.
I was in the wrong courtyard Marriott, so I had to get in one of those golf cart. Yeah, look.
There's nobody even in there.
I know.
That is so funny.
I
dude.
felt I didn't want to do it. I felt compelled to do it.
But your nerves must be. I mean,
We buried it.
I've never been so nervous in my life.
Oh my God.
So you guys have never done anything together.
Never.
Other than that.
No.
Would you or you wouldn't? Would you talk to him? Would you have a conversation
Well,
with him?
again, there's a big difference between saying I disagree and like calling me a Nazi,
Right.
and saying he's a garbage and he's a horrible person, and also like misrepresenting. What a big thing is they had they said Stephen calls women lying whores and he's sexist, and they even break this rule whenever we tell a joke on air. Like, Gerald, what do I always say? If we tell a joke that we know is going to get some heat, always make sure that there's, I say, like 30 seconds before 30 seconds, the people have context.
Yeah.
Because people will go and they'll afford you that, right? They'll look at the context, say it was a joke. And I think this was a joke with Christine Blasey Ford, remember? Which we now all know is fake.
Yes, 100%.
And the joke in one of the monologues was something like, of course, Christine Blasey Ford, authorities are investigating and they are trying to make sense of. I don't remember exactly the setup right verbatim, but the story which she, the account that she gave to the Washington Times, which was different from the account that she gave to her therapist, which was different from the account that she provided to the authorities. Of course, they are still open to the possibility that she's a lying whore.
That's still on the table.
And they said, like, Stephen calls women lying whore.
There we go, right there.
Just her.
No, just
see
a
that?
woman.
Yeah,
in a
just-
specific instance, okay?
And so when they do that, like, they're being dishonest.
Big time.
But yeah, I would. But I was sitting there, I was like, I still think it's a funny joke.
I think it's hilarious. But you know what's crazy too? But look at the power of people just reading that didn't know what you said. You're
Right, of
automatically that guy.
Yeah, it was the police.
Yeah, of
by
course.
the way, here's what's crazy. The reason why I asked that. We had Cenk here, I don't know, 6 months ago. What was the time? 10 months ago, 8 months ago?
I
Less
think it's
than
about I think it's about a year, March.
Really?
Yeah, March or April
Okay.
of last year.
And I got to tell you, it's very interesting. I had no idea what to expect when he came in. I didn't know what direction it was going to go. We had a very good conversation together, and he made his argument. I made mine. I asked the questions. He went back, and obviously, politically where he lies.
Yeah.
And then we had Kyle Kulinski on 4 months ago, 5 months ago.
2 months ago.
2 months ago.
Yeah.
Great conversation. We had this David Pakman on, young guy, fiery, energized, and, he very good. And then who else have we had on? We had a bunch of these guys on just to kind of see because
I've had plenty of liberals on, by the way, on the show. It's just they wouldn't do it for long.
I understand that. Yeah, I totally
You
understand.
had Roland Martin here.
Yeah, we had Roland Martin here, and it was
It was
heated.
fireworks.
It was
Hell
crazy.
yeah.
We had Neil deGrasse Tyson, but that wasn't even like I just asked a question about COVID, and that went a whole different direction with
really
the conversation on COVID.
Oh, he believes
But
everything.
but you know what it is like. Who's your customer? Who are you doing it for? To me, it's two things. One, do you like doing it? I do. I like talking to people and seeing where it goes. Two, who's the customer? The viewer listening and saying, you know what, Pat, you were wrong there. Okay, let me go do a little more research. You know what, that argument, he has a better argument than you. Okay, cool. Or, you know what, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with Kyle or Pakman. Great, make up your mind. And then my argument, your argument gets better. The audience is winning.
Yeah.
We're building that relationship to say, okay, dude, in these three places, we're way off. Because I asked a question from David Pakman, who would consider himself, well, I don't know politically where he would put himself.
Left.
Taxes. How much taxes is too much taxes, right? And you go, I don't know, 30%. And we were kind of on the same page when it came down to taxes. The most you pay, 30%. Okay, I was like, man, flat tax is a little bit better for me. I had the conversation with Jerry Springer, and Jerry Springer's like, I'm like, Jerry, how much taxes would you be willing to pay? I don't know what kind of a question is. I said, that's the question to me politically.
Yeah.
Here's your budget. Go spend it and stay tight and stop asking me for more if you don't know how to spend the money that I gave you that's now $32 trillion. I said, I don't know. I pay 90% in taxes. I said, you would pay 90% taxes? We talking about you pay 90% taxes. I'm like, if you're like saying you pay 90% taxes, why did you move your show from where it was to Connecticut to saving the taxes? You did this. Why did you do that?
Why haven't you done it already?
Yeah.
The IRS will take your check.
And by the way, you know what's the last question I asked Jerry? I said, Jerry, don't think about the Jerry today that's worth 50.
Yeah.
Think about the Jerry that was making $50K a year coming up. Would you be okay paying that taxes? I mean, the perspective is you're taking that fire away from the younger guy, and then that's when the conversation was like, I can't believe you're saying this. I'm not like I just enjoy having a conversation with opposition. I think opposition brings leaks in our argument, strengthens your argument, and then audience gets to decide for themselves.
That's where Change My Mind came from, was we couldn't get people on the left to really come on the show a whole lot. And it's not a debate, though. It was always designed to be the Socratic method. Like when we do debates on the show. I even debate right-wing people, like Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, John Stossel, all of them. I do this, there's this character, Skylar Turden, it's called Devil's Advocate. And I always tell them, like, don't think you're talking to Steven Crowder. Like, just know it's not going to be like, I'm a liberal, I'm stupid, which a lot of conservatives do, this caricature of people on the left. I'm going to, exactly. I'm going to present the strongest arguments possible. And sometimes they've been tripped up. And there's some funny stuff, like every time they're talking, like I throw them off, I'll be smoking a bigger vape.
Is that a segment?
Yeah.
Devil's Advocate?
Yeah. And we ended up with problems because then conservatives were like, oof, this one's pretty tough. Because it was like, again, I'm like, sharpen the arguments because it's for the audience, for them to be, and it was
did
really
they ever use clips against you? Like, did the left use clips saying this is what Crowder said, or no?
No.
Okay, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right. I'm dressed up in an outfit with tattoos and a coexist tattoo. And a
very granola, you know, tribal band.
And I always have a bigger and bigger vape mod. But all, you know what my prep was? My prep for that was the mirror image of Change My Mind. So I would go, because I always go claim truth, what I anticipate to be the most likely claims. And Change My Mind is not a debate. It's meant to be the Socratic method to encourage people to ask why. And the irony is that a lot of people end up changing their minds. But when we do that, we'll sit down for 3-4 hours, and it's just anyone who comes down. We'll have professors come down. Sometimes we've had reporters and people from television sit down. It's not just students, but that is exhausting.
Yeah, well,
4 hours.
Our biggest goal is not to tell people what to think. It's to teach people how to think. Like, go through this process and make sure that you're not making the mistake of being able to point these things out, like some of these guys we just talked about, Bill Maher and those guys, and still making the mistake of thinking that's the party to trust. Because there's something that's broken in the way that you think about these things critically and go, oh my gosh, I don't trust them for this, this, or this, but I'm going to vote for them. Like, wait a minute, how did you get back over here?
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just Change My Mind. It's, hey, we're quoting to you people on the left, all of our sources. Like, if any of our researchers, people come to us with a source from Fox News, we throw it out immediately. Not because we don't like Fox, but because it's like, yeah, we understand the talking point. We want to know what they are saying so that we can tell our audience, here's what they're saying, here's why it's wrong. Think through this process. Go to our website. Don't believe me. Go to the website. Click on the link. See what the article says. We're not making it up.
And we always try and go, if it's a study, we'll actually link to the study that's there.
The actual
PubMed.
Study, yeah.
Or if it's like a new poll, we'll link directly to Rasmussen. Or the only time we'll ever use a conservative source is if it's an exclusively conservative story that they have a scoop on. So most of the sources are leftist, like New York Times, Washington Post, and we provide 30 to 60 every single day when we do the shows.
Yeah.
Every day.
Respect.
And I genuinely think that you really, just never met you before. I've seen your stuff. I know what's happening. But, just from talking with both of you, when it comes to, fans, I could tell that you guys really give a shit about what you're doing, what you're saying. And, that I think resonates. And that's why you guys have such a following that is going to follow you and stay with you guys and stay loyal.
Well, once again, appreciate you for coming out. This was fantastic. Congratulations to you guys. March 20th. Yes,
20th.
March 20th.
What time?
March 20th. It's the same bat time, same bat channel.
10 a.m. Eastern.
$10 less.
Put the link below again. March 20th. Steven Crowder back with a lot of specials. The last 90 days, they've not been sitting around. They've been producing stuff. I know the world's excited for you guys to be doing that. And then also at the same time, we are doing our next live podcast the weekend of the UFC in Miami, which is the Fight's the 8th, Saturday, April 7th. At night, first time we're doing a podcast, Friday night, 7 to 9, and we will be having tickets go for sale probably sometime this week. Last time it sold out, I think, in 3 hours. And the moment we send a text out, it's not going to be public announcement. It's purely sells out once you send a text. If you do want to be on the list of the last podcast, we had 200 people in the house. Some guys went into the cigar lounge afterwards. We had a great time together. This one's going to be 7 to 9, so probably people are going to stay at the club till late
100%.
night, drinks, all that other stuff. So text the word podcast to 310-340-1132. Once again, text the word podcast 310-340-1132 to be part of that list. The moment we announce tickets, you'll be the first to get the text to purchase a ticket so we can see you April 7th, Friday, 7 to 9 at the studio with VT, with myself and our crew. Having said that, once again, link to podcast show with Stephen coming back will be below to get signed up for that. Again, put in your calendar March 20th. Stephen, thanks for coming out. This was a blast, man.
I
really enjoyed it. Truly, really enjoyed it, man.
You guys have a nice setup here. Very subtle.
Hey, the lights
Very
on.
banky.
We are officially live.
We just went live.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye.